Because we found if I go on a Wednesday.
We are going to call the January meeting of the Verona Board of Adjustment to order at 7:35 p.m. on January 8th. Would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, would you please read the Open Public Meetings Act statement?
The notice requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act have been satisfied with respect to this meeting of the Township of Verona's Board of Adjustment, which is being held in person in the ballroom of the Verona Community Center, located at 880 Bloomfield Avenue, Verona. The time and date of this meeting were included in the annual meeting notice posted in the Community Center and sent to the official newspaper of the Township, the Verona Cedar Grove Times, at least 48 hours preceding the start time of this meeting. The agenda and instructions on how to comment will be provided at the appropriate time. All meetings are recorded. Those wishing to speak during any public comment period should only provide their name and municipality. Street addresses are not required. Please be advised that should a member of the public choose to state their street address, it will not be redacted from this recording.
Under item D of the agenda, oaths of office, we have already taken the liberty of swearing in or our returning members, Dr. Quartus and Mr. Ryan. You'll have to take our word for it. We swore them in. So we are now down to E and a roll call for tonight's meeting.
Mr. Tully?
Here.
Dr. Rees? Here. Dr. Quartus?
Here.
Mr. Ryan?
Here.
Mrs. Murphy-Braddix?
Here.
Mr. Mathewson?
Here.
Mrs. DiBartolo?
Here.
Vice Chair Weston?
Here.
Chair McGinley?
Here.
Board Attorney Massara?
Here.
Ms. Tanware?
Here.
Dr. Gonzalez?
Here.
Ms. Mish?
Here.
Okay. Item F on the agenda is the reorganization of the board, which previously we had always done in July, and with the extension of the voting, changing all of our elected representatives to a January schedule, we now have to do that in January. So I would like to open the floor to nominations for a chairperson.
I would like to nominate Dan McGinley to be our chairperson.
I second.
Any more? Anyone? Bill, did your hand go up? No more nominations, eh?
You can always nominate somebody.
No, I'd never do that to anybody. Okay, if there are no nominations, I would entertain a vote on that matter. All those in favor? Should we have a roll call vote?
Aye, aye, aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Wow. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, nominations for vice chair.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Weston as the vice chair.
I'll second that motion.
Wow. One motion, 8 seconds. I guess anybody else want to nominate somebody? Nobody. Okay, we'll take a vote on that. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Room full of friends. Well, there's something to be said for consistency, and since I was sitting here anyway. Appointments. Appointments of Boswell as the Board of Adjustment engineer.
It doesn't say that on the agenda. It says Sophine.
There should be a revised
So it should be
agenda.
on the revised one. Oh, sorry about that.
In your green folder.
It's in the green folder.
There's a revised agenda in your green folder.
Oh, okay.
Thought right away I was making stuff up, right? Okay,
Do we have to move the appointments, or?
we do have to move the appointments and vote on them.
I will make a motion to move the appointment of Boswell as the Board of Adjustment engineer.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
A second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? It's unanimous. All right. Now, here's one that we haven't had any experience with. Appointment of Dolores Carpinelli as the Board of Adjustment Secretary. For those of you who've seen her for the last 6 months, it hasn't been official, so now it can be official. So I would be happy to entertain a motion to appoint Dee Dee as the Board of Adjustment Secretary. Thank you.
Second?
Second. All those in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I'd say that was good. We can keep that up a while. Okay, item G on the agenda. The minutes of the regular meeting of December 12th. That was... Hopefully, they did not take long to read.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from December 12th.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Edith. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
I abstain.
3 abstentions. Okay. Minutes are approved. Resolutions are approved. The resolutions are for the appointments that we made. So can't we just take those as a group and say we're approving all the resolutions for all of the appointments that were made? We vote.
Oh, yes, yeah, that's fine.
Can I have a motion to approve all the resolutions confirming the actions we just took?
I'll make that motion. Mr.
Thank
Chairman.
you. Second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Good. All the resolutions. So all of the administrative matters have been taken care of up to this point. Which gets us to new business. And new business starts with application 2025-11, 24 South Prospect Street. If you would be so kind as to come to the front, please remain standing. Council will swear you in, and then you may be seated and tell us.
Mr. Chairman, I have a conflict on this matter. I have property within 200 feet. Mr. Stephen Greenberg will be taking my place.
Okay. Have a seat, John. Good seat.
Hi. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but, so help you God?
I do.
State your name and spell your last name for the record.
John Sampers, Sampers.
Okay.
Council?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Happy New Year. It's good to see everybody. Alan Tremulak appearing on behalf of the applicant, John Sampers. This application involves property at 24 South Prospect Avenue. Street. I always want to say Avenue. South Prospect Street. property located in the R60 medium-density residential zone. It's basically the fourth lot in from Bloomfield Avenue on the westerly side of the block. We're here tonight seeking two variances in order to enable Mr. Sampers to convert the detached garage on his property, in the rear of his property, to an office use, which would allow him to operate his business and work remotely, as so many people have done and are doing since the COVID-19 pandemic. Your zoning ordinance provides that home occupations are permitted as conditional uses in all of your, I believe all of your single-family zoning districts. And the zoning officer, in reviewing this application, I think correctly characterized this home office use as a, quote, home occupation. The ordinance spells out 13 conditions that must be met in order for a home occupation to be permitted as a conditional use on any property. We satisfy 12 of the 13 conditions. The only condition we don't satisfy is there's a condition that says that the business use cannot have any employees other than people who live in the house. And my client proposes to have one part-time administrative person who would work probably about 6 to 8 hours per week. So we need a variance to permit that, but we satisfy all of the other conditions spelled out in your ordinance for a home occupation. The other variance that we're seeking, and I'm not even sure that it is a variance, but I don't want to get into those details at this point. We'll talk about that later. But we were cited for a variance relating to the use of the garage, which is what we're proposing to do. Your ordinance provides that garages are to be used solely and for no other purpose than to store motor vehicles. I'm not quite sure there are many garages in Verona. I know my cars rarely see the inside of the garage. Garages, I think for most people, are used for things other than parking their vehicles, storing bicycles, equipment, whatever, more storage facilities than garages. But your ordinance provides that garages can only be used for the storage of motor vehicles, and there's a restriction against garages being used for business or service uses. Assuming we need a variance for that, we've applied for that. Those are the two variances that we're seeking. I have three witnesses that I think will all be fairly brief, starting with Mr. Sampers, and then following his testimony, you have some brief testimony from the architect to just discuss the floor plans for the garage. And then our last witness will be our professional planner, William Stimmel. So I'd like to proceed, unless the board has any other questions, with Mr. Sampers' testimony. Okay. All right, Mr. Sampers, I think you've already been sworn in. You the owner of the property at 24 South Prospect Street?
Yes,
Okay. And how long have you owned that property?
since 2004,
Okay. And you live at the property as well?
I do.
Okay. And who do you live there with?
Two of my sons,
Okay. So it's you and your two sons?
yes,
What are their ages?
just 19 today
Okay.
and 20.
Okay. And you currently own and operate a financial services business?
Yes, I do.
What's the name of that?
SFI Advisors.
Okay. And just briefly describe the nature of the business.
It's a financial advisory business located in Montclair.
Okay. How long has the business been located in Montclair?
Been in Montclair for 30 plus years.
Okay. occupying rented office space in the
Yes.
building in Montclair?
Yes.
Okay. How many people currently work in that office in Montclair?
Currently, it's myself predominantly, and then I have a administrative assistant that comes in. Ever since COVID, basically, everybody chooses to work remotely. So occasionally I'll have somebody else, another employee might come to the office. That's it.
Okay. So at one point, I assume there were more people who were utilizing the office.
There were.
Okay.
Yeah.
But since COVID, other than this one administrative employee, you're the only one in the office typically?
Typically, yes.
Okay, and how often does the administrative assistant or administrative employee come to the office?
2 to 3 days a week, probably for 3 or 4 hours at a clip.
Okay. So you're seeking, as I take it, by virtue of having filed this application, to essentially move out of the Montclair location and to relocate your office
Yes.
at your property on South Prospect Street?
Correct.
Okay. Can you explain why? If you haven't already, really.
Just it's simple economics of it. You know, instead of having to commute to Montclair and work there, it would be very nice to just be able to work.
And you're essentially working by yourself since no one else is in the office?
Correct.
Mostly. Is that right?
Right. And we had very little client interaction, face to face. Most of it's all virtual as well.
Okay, so you have very infrequent client meetings in the office. You don't need
Correct.
in the office to meet with clients these
Right.
days because you can do that by
They
phone
prefer to
or
be
Zoom.
virtual. Yes.
People prefer virtual.
We probably meet with a client once a month in the office.
Okay. Okay. All right, so again, you're seeking to convert your garage to office space, and instead of going to Montclair, you go from your house to your garage to get to the office every day. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Why did you decide to locate the office in the garage rather than in the house itself?
Just in working with the architect to structure separate office space between the residential and the office space was just very expensive, and it would have altered the character of the house.
Okay, but you did consider that
We did, yes.
and decided that this was a better approach?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so if this application were approved and you were allowed to use the garage as an office, would anyone other than you be working in the office?
I would have the one administrative assistant probably there 2 days a week for three hours at a time, like they do currently.
Well, when you say they, there's only one person, right?
Yes, he.
Okay, okay. So 2 days a week, maybe 3 hours a day?
Correct.
Tops, that's it? There'd be no other employees utilizing the space?
No.
Okay. And by the way, I'm assuming you're talking about daytime hours that this
Correct.
person would be there?
Yep.
Okay. And would you expect to meet with clients in the office?
I would expect that infrequently, very similar to the way it is currently, maybe once a month, meet with a client and their spouse.
Would it be no more than 2 people, is that fair to say?
That is
Husband
fair.
and wife typically?
Yes.
If they come to the office, and most people prefer,
Right, and most of the time we go to them.
or you meet
I go to-
virtually?
right.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Would you, will there be any occasions where you would have other staff people in the building or in the office space other than yourself and the administrative person?
I would anticipate that once a quarter, there'd be 2 or 3 team members that would come for a 3-4 hour meeting.
Okay. And that would happen once every 3 months?
Yeah, thereabouts. Yeah.
Okay. But there would not be regular
No,
meetings such as that? There would
No.
just be quarterly meetings with
Correct.
your team?
with the team.
Okay. And you're not proposing to install any signage indicating that there's a business use
No,
of the garage, right? Okay. By the way, how many cars do you currently have?
3 cars.
Okay, and where do those cars currently park on the property?
In the driveway, and 2 of my boys are in college and they commute, so those 2 of the cars are out most days.
Okay, but do the cars ever, so you've got 3 cars?
Yes.
Total? Do you ever park them in the garage currently?
They've never been in the garage.
Okay. Okay. And where would you anticipate that your administrative employee or assistant would park on the days that she?
In the driveway.
Okay. And what about clients when they come once a week or so for meetings?
In the driveway.
Okay. You expect to have, and I assume, by the way, you don't have any commercial vehicles associated with your
No.
business?
No.
Okay. And you anticipate that you would require any delivery trucks to make deliveries
The
for the business?
only thing might be a FedEx or a FedEx package, envelopes.
Or an Amazon delivery truck?
Right.
You probably have those on the block all the time anyway.
We do.
If you're like anybody else, right? Okay. But you wouldn't have any other delivery vehicles?
No.
Okay. And would there be any equipment inside the building other than, normal office equipment?
No, just a printer, copier, and some computer equipment.
Okay. Okay. My last question would be, have you discussed this application and what you'd like to do with any of your neighbors?
Yes, I have.
Who? How many?
The area is a very commercial area anyway. One of my neighbors is a multifamily. The owners of the property do not live and reside there, but I spoke to them and they had no concern. A neighbor on the other side is a single family and they had no concern. I've known them for years. And then across the street, we have a church. Next to the church, there's a driveway to a commercial entrance to the Krausers. And then next to that, there's a multifamily house. Next to that, there's a gas station. We have Frank Anthony's on the corner. We have a law firm and a mixed-use law firm residential next to that. And then the dentist next to that.
And then the house immediately next to yours on the right side as you face the house, that's the multifamily?
That's the multifamily.
And you've indicated you spoke to the owner
Yes,
of
I
that
did.
property? And then you also spoke to the owner of the adjacent property to the left
Yes.
also? Okay. No further questions for this witness.
Does the board have any questions of this witness?
Can you just clarify, in the application, it says, we wish to use the space as a home office that is little more than just a space for the homeowner to work after hours. Can you clarify after hours?
There'd be no work after hours. And our typical hours are 9 to 5, Monday through Friday.
In your Montclair office now, do you have a set open hours, or do you just do it by appointment?
You do it by appointment. Yeah.
So you would continue that practice if the variance was granted?
Yes.
How many cars can fit in that driveway, if indeed the two sons that you talk about were there? It's not a double driveway.
At the top of the driveway, it opens up to a double driveway. If you really want, you could fit 3 cars next to each other at the top of the driveway. And, I mean, it's a long driveway, so I mean, you could probably fit 7 cars in the driveway.
You
if you
figure
want.
about 5.
5 easily, yeah.
On-street parking?
On-street parking, the town a few years ago did a really good job creating safe on-street parking. We have 3 2-hour spots right in front of our house. We have directly across from us, they created 3 2-hour parking spots along with a handicap spot in front of the church. And then there's a crosswalk, and they fire, like, no cars can park there. So, because we were just very safe now. And there's plenty of on-street parking. During the day, it's fairly wide open. On the weekends, it's busy with Frank Anthony's, and in the evening, it's a little busy because people are frequenting Frank Anthony's or the restaurants in Verona.
So you're saying that in a pinch, you could get about 5 cars in that driveway, and then if by any chance there were more people,
Right.
which you're saying there will not be, they have on-street parking as well.
There's on-street
2 hours.
parking, right. And there's also, the church has parking that's very rarely used. Not that we would ever use it. We've never parked a car there, and there's a lot of parking that I think,
And just to confirm, just to make sure it's all clear, aside from, the fact that you needed a variance to change the interior of the garage, it was solely the point on the home occupation side about employees, no other employees other than yourself being on the premises. That was the problem, just that element B, you're seeking a variance for home occupation, not mixed use, not a standalone facility that would otherwise be potentially sublet or anything. Just because you were open and transparent, you wanted another employee there, that one element. But otherwise, it would be a home occupation. That's it.
You meet all the requirements otherwise, yes.
Correct. Okay. So I make sure that's crystal clear. It's home occupation, that one element that introduced that other variance. Okay.
I have a question for the attorney. If, do you mind?
Paid extra for it?
If these variances were to be granted, and this business went out, what kind of a follow-up does this bring with it? I mean, what kind of practice could go into that garage after he leaves?
Similar practice, and one with, I presume you would condition this on one employee. So it had the same conditions. Yeah. So you would agree to a restriction of one employee?
yes.
And signage, that's another.
He's not applying for signage.
Yeah, we're not.
Is that correct?
No.
Signage isn't permitted, and we're not,
But someone could not come and then put signage, if we would have to include that in our, yeah, we got it. Okay.
Jim, we would, just on that subject, Doctor, we would anticipate the board imposing conditions based upon my client's testimony. One employee, with the exception of that one quarterly meeting that he had, where there might be 3 people, and once every 3 months or so for a team meeting.
But isn't that quarterly meeting not employees? Aren't they outside vendors like accountants or something?
No, they'd be just our team members that are working virtually. So they're employees.
So your company has other employees?
Yes.
Oh, how many employees do you have?
In addition to the administrative.
Just in total? Let's start.
With me, 5.
So you have 3 off-site employees? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay. So these are the people that you would want to be able to make an exception for the quarterly meeting?
For a quarterly meeting.
On Mr. Greenberg's point? Okay. And obviously, we would stipulate that you'd have no problem with stipulating that in the condition of approval?
Absolutely.
And-
You would expect it.
And a condition to maintain that any customers or clients that are coming on site is by appointment only?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. We don't have time.
I mean, I think that's where I was kind of getting into it, is all of the other elements of home occupations are pretty restricted. I mean, no more than 2 clients, customers, or business invitees are permitted any one time per calendar day. And it's been kind of relatively limiting. I mean, I think the 3 employees is kind of just over, right? So if we kind of permit that being, again, that he's being honest about it, that's fine. But, I think that if all that he's asking for is the employee component, I'm okay with that. What I was kind of concerned about is making that its own standalone business, utilization. That's where I was kind of concerned about.
Is it, let's see, what am I trying to ask here? As part of a condition of approval, would we specify that it's just for professional services?
With financial services.
Right, but in terms of our zoning ordinance, we have to classify it as something. I mean, do we do that with home occupations?
Well, we would classify it as a home occupation, so meaning that only the person who lives in the house can have the business there. And whatever business we have within our ordinance that falls under a home occupation can be there. So like you couldn't have woodworking, you couldn't have things that make noise. So we can absolutely specify that it's a home occupation and it's a conditional use to the dwelling where the person lives. So it can't be used as a standalone business because then it would be 2 principal uses on one lot and we don't allow that.
That sort of follows up on Ms. Reese's point, I think, which is, yes, if Mr. Sampras sells the house, okay, and a person moves in there, they would just be restricted to whatever, they would still have to abide by whatever conditions we granted in this variance?
For a home occupation.
Right. So in other words, if you sold it to a carpenter, to a good point, okay, someone couldn't just come in and set up a woodworking business in the garage.
It would have to be a business that is allowable within the home occupation.
Any more questions from the board?
Any stocks you want to recommend for the resolution?
Is there anyone from the public who would like to question this witness? Seeing none. Counselor?
Okay, Evan Scott, please. Is it? Okay, you have to be sworn.
Raise your hand. You swear to tell the truth, all the truth, and nothing but self you got.
Yes, I do.
Say your name and spell your last name
My name is Evan Scott, Scott.
and your address, sir.
Architect, I'm an architect at 28 Arlington Ave, Caldwell, New Jersey, 07006.
Mr. Scott, your license is still in good order?
It is, yes.
I'd move to admit Mr. Scott as an expert in, for architecture, since he's been presented in front of the board numerous times, including probably just a few months ago.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Accepted.
Okay. And Mr. Scott, you prepared the plans for conversion of the garage to office space?
Yes, I have.
They're fairly simple. Can you just review your floor plan
Yep, absolutely.
that's been submitted?
Yeah, as we discussed, we explored options doing a business in the primary residence, but it costs money to add a second stair, convert and separate the residential from this secondary use business space. So we thought the garage would be the best option. We explored different ideas of doing a second floor, going up, going back. But with the size of the business space, we didn't require that. And to make it still feel and look like a garage, we maintained and kept the outside, the roof lines, and everything else. It does already have existing tall kind of ceilings on the interior, so we're maintaining that and just creating a restroom with a toilet and a sink, some storage space, a primary office, and then a communal gathering area for to meet with clients as needed in the front. We are maintaining the garage doors to keep that garage feel, and not make it look like a separate building structure, but make it fit within the residence. So very minimal impact on the exterior, keeping the stucco, keeping the roof, keeping existing roof drains out to the yard. We are just also taking a dilapidated shed off the back and just making that new in the rear.
So after this is completed, if someone's walking down the block and, looks down the fairly long driveway to this structure in the rear, it's going to look like it does today, as if it's a residential garage.
Correct.
With new garage doors, but still have the appearance of a garage.
Yes, and then on the inside, insulation and sheetrock, electrical.
Of course, that assumes you can see the garage if cars aren't parked in front of it, as they usually are, but, okay. Okay, and just briefly, we received a couple of reports. Do you have the report? It's actually in the form of an email from the board engineer.
Yes, I do.
Boswell. All right, there are 5 points. Can you just quickly address those?
Sure. The first point was asking about grading in the rear of the property. There will be no regrading, no change to the existing asphalt structure, paving, or grass area. The second item is for required parking for employee and clients. We discussed that previously, that there are adequate driveway spaces as needed for employee and clients as they come. Number 3 was the garage doors and how they're going to accommodate vehicle parking. We will not be parking anything in the garage. Those are just for aesthetics, to kind of open up, allow open air feel in the warmer months. Number 4 is roof leaders. As discussed, we're not changing the roof leaders' locations. They will all stay existing to remain, and they are draining out to the rear and side yard into the grass. And then the number 5 is just considering the applicant not use the garage as a shed or living space, and we are approved of that.
And we agree to that condition, of course. Okay. And then there was also a comment from the, was it the health department?
Health department, yeah.
About pest control?
Correct. There will be a pest control method or measure taken during the completion of construction and after ongoing.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all I have for Mr. Scott.
Okay. Anyone from the board have questions of Mr. Scott?
Yeah, I know that we went kind of back and forth in the previous conversation about the actual kind of zoning component about home occupation. If this were a standalone facility, maybe I just missed it in the 2 font that was used here. If this were a standalone facility, what would a potential occupancy be for a facility like this?
We have business space, so it'd be about 3 persons based on square footage.
Okay. Like with the office and the conference room, like if this had like normal signs in there, like what would the office, be, and then what would the conference room like normally fit based on the square footage?
Size-wise?
Yeah, like if it were, like if you went in and, you have rooms that say like maximum occupancy just based on normal size, like.
Got you. So it would still be business occupancy, which is about 200 square foot per person. And so based off of that, I believe we're around 3 or 4 persons total for the whole building structure.
Okay. Cool, thanks, appreciate it.
So can you confirm that the slab and foundation is staying?
Correct.
The exterior walls are staying?
Correct.
The roof framing is staying, it's just the finish that's coming off?
Correct, yep.
Okay. And how do you anticipate getting the utilities out there? your water and your sewer?
It is elevated from the main house, so we do plan to run a plumbing for the bathroom down. If it, for some reason, does not meet grade, we'll put an injector pump for sewage. And then electrical, there's already electrical out there, but we may have to upsize, so that'll be an underground conduit out to the main yard with a sub panel.
Any other questions from the board for our architect?
So right now, is the slab pitched?
It is, yes.
So I'm assuming you're going to level it and,
A little if needed, but the anticipation is to not need to do that at all and allow that gentle pitch inside.
okay, all right. So that if anybody were to ever use that as a garage in the future, you could still do that. You can still drive in.
Correct, yes.
Is there anyone from the public who has a question of our architect? Seeing none? Counselor?
Okay, thank you. My next and final witness is William Stimmel.
You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but, so help you God?
I do.
You state your name and spell your last name, please,
William Stimmel, Stimmel.
and your address.
P.O. Box 280, Rutherford, New Jersey.
You want a board here, or does the board know him? Or?
Yeah, I mean, we're offering Mr. Stimmel as an expert in the field of professional planning. He's testified before the board a number of times very recently, including, I think, your last meeting.
I don't recognize
I went to NJIT, does that help?
I think he likes that, yeah.
You're in.
Okay.
He knows the key thing.
All right, Mr. Stimmel.
We accept Mr. Stimmel as a.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman. Would you begin by just discussing the existing conditions on the property and then what the proposal is before you go into your planning testimony?
Certainly. The subject property is rectangular in shape with an area of 16,714 square feet. It's bound by South Prospect Street to the east and adjoining residential properties to the north, south, and west. Currently developed with a 2.5-story single-family dwelling located on the eastern portion of the site. There's a detached 2-car garage located on the southwesterly portion of the site behind the residential dwelling. Access to the site is proposed via one curb cut along southbound South Prospect Street. It leads to a driveway which runs along the southern property line and connects to the detached garage at the rear. There's also a paver patio at the back of the building and a concrete sidewalk leading to the front of the building. The remainder of the site is landscape with an extensive lawn area in the rear. The proposed conditions, the changes which the architect spoke about briefly, the applicant plans to construct an attached shed to replace the existing shed at the back of the garage and intends to renovate and convert the garage to serve as office space. No other changes to the subject property are proposed.
Before we get into the zoning and the variances, just a question, because it came up earlier about how many cars could be parked in that driveway, the maximum number of cars. Did you review that?
It's roughly 130 feet from the face of the garage to the property line, so you could fit 6 cars, just one in front of another easily, and then it does widen out at the back of the property. The client said you could get 3 across at the back of the property in front of the garage, but I'd say comfortably you could get 8 cars on the driveway. In order to get the eighth car out, there would be some jockeying involved, but that's well above what the applicant has or would have if this application is approved.
Okay, thank you. All right, you want to talk about the zoning applicable to the property, and particularly to this application?
Yes, the property is located in the R60 medium-density, single-family residential zone in the township of Verona. It's interesting because within 200 feet of the site, there are 4 other zones. You have the town center zone, which is along Bloomfield Avenue. You have the C2 professional office zone, which is the first 2 lots coming off of Bloomfield on Prospect. You've got the semi-public zone, which is where the church is located across Prospect to the north of Hill Street. And then the R50 high-density residential zone to the south of Hill Street, east of Prospect. And by and large, the development pattern in the area does reflect those existing zones. So the site's located in the R60 zone. The only principal permitted use in that zone is single-family dwelling, which is what exists on the property now. Permitted conditional uses are satellite or dish antenna, subject to conditions, and home occupation, also subject to conditions. Per the ordinance, there are 13 different conditions which apply to home occupations in the R60 zone and other single-family residential zones. As one of the board members mentioned, we comply with all but one of those. So we comply with 12 of the 13 conditions for the home occupation. What we don't comply with is condition B, which is that there shall be no employees other than those who reside on the premises. So because we don't comply with all the conditions, we're required to come to the zoning board to apply for a D3 conditional use variance.
And what are the standards that apply when the board's considering a D3 conditional use variance?
Sure, there's a lesser standard than with the D1 variance, a new use which is not permitted in the zone. The municipality has already determined that this type of use, this type of home occupation is appropriate for the zone, so the use itself is not the question. The applicant just has to speak to the deviations from the conditional use standards, and as far as the positive criteria is concerned, must demonstrate that the site continues to be appropriate for the proposed use in spite of the deviation from the standards. Mr. Sampers provided a lot of testimony about his current operation at his office in Montclair. He has 4 employees for the business, not including himself. They rarely come to the existing office location in Montclair, which is a condition that has developed over time, particularly since the COVID pandemic in 2020. That pattern would carry over to this site if the conditional use variance is approved. He testified that there would be regular visits from 1 employee coming approximately twice a week, lasting approximately 3 hours per visit, and occasional staff meetings on a quarterly basis. So the extent of the deviation from the conditional use standards is certainly very minor in nature. We fully comply with 12 of the 13 requirements. The fact that we occasionally have an employee coming to the site would have a minimal impact on traffic. It can be accommodated by the on-site parking. And to answer the question from one of the other board members, if something with the applicant's operation changed in the future, if he decided he needed a delivery van, if he decided he needed to put up a sign outside, he would have to come back in front of the board to get a new variance for that. As far as the negative criteria, the applicant must demonstrate that the deviation from the conditional use standard, so having an outside employee come onto the property, does not cause substantial detriment to the public good and does not cause substantial impairment to the zone plan and zoning ordinance, or in the alternative, that conditions can be imposed to mitigate those detriments or impacts. Based on my evaluation of the application, the submitted materials, the testimony provided, as well as a visit to the subject property, I see no substantial detriment to the public good and no substantial impairment to the zone plan and zoning ordinance. The application contemplates a conditionally permitted use with a minor deviation from the conditional use standards. There's no change at all to the existing dwelling. There's minimal construction to be done on the subject property. The applicant has the ability to accommodate the parking demand on the subject property. There is, if necessary, available on-street parking, as testified to by Mr. Sampers, and from what I observed on my visit to the subject property, there's little or no traffic generated by the site, and the applicant has already agreed to accept reasonable conditions that the board had suggested regarding the number of employees and other aspects of the operation. There is also, and I'm referring to the August 1st, 2025 letter from the zoning officer, there is one C variance associated with the application. Ordinance section 150-7.6C states that private garages shall only be used for the storage and security of motor vehicles. Private garages and carports shall not be utilized for the conduct of any business, service, or residency. So that would be a C variance. It would come under the heading of a C2 flexible C, where the purposes of zoning are advanced and the benefits in granting the variance outweigh any detriments. Mr. Trembulac in his opening mentioned that the township's regulations on the use of private garages are fairly restrictive. Taken literally, you can't do anything with a garage other than park cars in it. You can't have personal storage, you can't have a workshop, you can't have hobby or recreational space, and so on. The township in the 2022 master plan actually acknowledges the increase in people working from home since the start of the COVID pandemic and recommends that the township regulations be updated to ensure that residents are able to benefit from this trend. It further recommends continuing re-evaluation of home occupancy regulations to ensure compatibility with the rise in non-traditional workplaces while maintaining residential character. Mr. Sampers, from what he's described of his business, it's a very fine line between what he's proposing to do and someone that's just set up the laptop out in their garage and is doing fantasy football or online shopping or something along those lines. It's really minimal impact in terms of the business element of the operation. It will continue to present as a residential garage. The architect provided testimony to that effect. Not to mention the fact that if you're standing on the sidewalk on Prospect Street, the roof of the garage is visible, but the face of the garage is barely visible. You can only see really the top row of windows in the garage door. So it's screened behind a fence. There's the change in elevation from the sidewalk to the garage, so it certainly has limited visibility. I think an important factor to consider is that anyone who has worked remotely can understand the benefit of having a little bit of separation from the rest of the residents and your business use. Certainly in Mr. Sampers' case, there's a need to maintain a little bit of privacy for client confidentiality, not that necessarily concerned about his family doing anything untoward, but just to be on the safe side, certainly. The applicant's property is an oversized lot for the zone. It could certainly accommodate an addition to the dwelling, and the architect did speak about that briefly. Could accommodate the addition to the dwelling to permit the necessary office space, but it would be an additional expense and impact to the surrounding area, and he already has the existing underutilized garage space. Based on the coverage calculations on the architect's plans, we could increase the coverage up to 25% for a net increase of 1,462 square feet, which would be a pretty substantial sized office, but frankly, it's just not necessary. The garage is being used right now for storage on a limited basis, so there's no detriment to the neighborhood in terms of the parking supply. You're not losing any parking supply on a functional basis, and the driveway is 130 feet long and can accommodate at least 6 vehicles, but more realistically, probably 8 when you factor in the additional width at the rear of the property. Again, with the C variance, it's the same negative criteria. The applicant has to demonstrate that there's no substantial detriment to the public good and no substantial impairment of the zone plan and zoning ordinance. Garage is not currently being used for parking. The applicant has no issues with parking his and his family's personal vehicles. The occasional need for a parking space for a visitor or employee could be accommodated within the existing driveway or through on-street parking. There's no substantial impairment to the zone plan and zoning ordinance. As with the D3 variance, this is a relatively minor relief that we're requesting here. The building will continue to present as residential. And finally, if the board were to approve this application, it would not set a precedent for other potential applicants. As every application rises and falls on its own merits, if the board approved this, they would be approving the variance for this type of use with these restrictions for this site only. So if at some point Mr. Sampers decided to pack up and move to Florida, he could sell it to someone else with a home occupancy eligible business, but they would have to abide by all the same conditions that the board would impose tonight. So for all those reasons, I believe the applicant has provided sufficient justification to support the requested variance relief, and will be happy to try to answer any questions the board may have.
Just one or two follow-up questions, Mr. Stimmel. Are you familiar with the definition of home occupation in the zoning ordinance?
Yes.
And am I correct? I'm looking at it here. It indicates that a home occupation may be conducted, quote, within a residential building or an accessory structure thereto.
Correct.
So the garage is an accessory structure.
It is, yes.
That's currently being used as a garage.
Yes.
But if it was not a garage, but it was another accessory structure, it would not require the variance, the second variance that you just discussed.
If you consider the fact that if the application is approved, the garage ceases to be used as a garage, then it's just an accessory structure with a garage door on the front of it, then that other variance would go away. It's if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck and looks like a duck situation. Well, what if it stops walking and talking like a duck? Then what do you have? So I think it's a fair argument, but I think we are covered either way.
Yeah, I just thought we should make that additional point if necessary. No further questions.
Mr. Simmel, would you say this particular lot is much larger than a standard R60 lot for the zone? Our standard R60s are about 7,400, I think is the minimum.
Just going to refer to the zoning table so I get the numbers right. The lot area is 16,714 square feet. The zoning is 7,200 square feet. So
it's more than double?
More than double, yes.
Can you tell us how many parking spaces are required for a single-family home like this?
I would imagine it would be 2. I don't exactly know the number of bedrooms in the building, but I would think it would be 2, possibly 3.
Is it based on RSIS?
Correct. It would be based on RSIS, single-family home, and then the standards would be for, it's a large home, so let's err on the safe side and say 3 spaces.
Okay, and you can confirm that in Verona, we don't have an interior parking space requirement?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Yeah. So therefore, it's permissible to displace those interior parking spaces to the driveway?
You could accommodate the parking demand solely by the driveway.
Also, just for the record, so the height is 16.2 or so, and that's a pre-existing non-conforming, that's okay.
Anyone else from the board have questions for our planner? Seeing none, is there anyone from the public who has a question of our planner? Seeing none, Counselor?
That concludes our application, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Assume there's no public comment. I would just sum up by saying I think we've, established that this is an appropriate case for the C2 variance. We comply with 12 of the 13 requirements. Just asking for permission to allow this, one part-time employee to be on the property a couple of days a week, 3 or 4 hours at a time. Obviously, no one will even know that he or she is there. Would park, in the driveway. Would not be noticeable at all. And then the occasional use once a quarter for a team meeting, if you will, with the 4 other employees. We would ask permission for that, permission for this one part-time employee. That's really the only variance we're seeking. You know, as we just talked about the other variants, I mean, the home occupation definition contemplates that you can have a home occupation either in the main house or in an accessory structure. This is an accessory structure, and if we're allowed to do what we're seeking to do, it's no longer a garage, so we would not be operating the business in a garage. It would be in an accessory structure, which is permitted. And so, you know, I think, you know, for all the reasons Mr. Stimmel mentioned, you know, I think the application should be granted, and we've already talked about conditions. We would expect the board to impose conditions, you know, based upon the particular testimony and the, you know, particular manner in which the property is to be utilized, so that those conditions would carry over to any subsequent owner of the property who might want to continue to carry on a permitted home occupation. So, thank the board for its time.
Thank you, Mr. Tremulak.
Thank you.
I have to ask, is there anyone from the public who'd like to make a statement about this application? Okay, good. We're back on track. I would open the board to deliberation on the variances required.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to make sure I understand Mr. Tremulak correctly. In our report from our zoning officer, she's stating that 2 variances are required. If I'm understanding you correctly, Mr. Tremulak, you are challenging the fact that 2 variances are required. You, in your legal opinion, feel there's only one. Is that a correct interpretation?
Well, I'm making that, you know, argument, although as an alternative argument.
I'm beating this to death because I've said before this board before, we've come up with this, and I feel sorry for the zoning official. Unfortunately, our master plan was passed years ago, and we're still working with zoning ordinances from 2011. Okay, so this continually causes, at least in my mind, you know, conflicts, and it makes it very difficult for our zoning officer. You know, when you quoted 2 different things. One, she quotes the garage can't be used other than for cars, and yet you're saying this is an accessory structure. So maybe, you know.
There's some inconsistency there. I'm not disagreeing with Kathleen at all. I'm just sort of making an alternative argument. I think we've established that we meet the, you know, criteria for granting.
And I'm doing this to get on the record because I have gone to the council during public participation, criticized the township for dragging their feet with the planning board on updating our ordinances to match the current master plan. So I just want to get that on the record again. I may be a broken record, but if I keep, you know, harassing them enough, maybe they do have a firm that's working on it. Now, you know, how long it takes, God only knows. But this is not the first time, I think I'll defer to the zoning officer, where the master plan and the old zoning ordinances somehow don't jive. Okay, so I'll go back to the chairman here. Are we considering 2 variances or 1?
Well, we're considering 2 because Mr. Tremulak is not the guy who decides.
Okay, thank you.
So we're considering the 2.
Okay, good.
I'm just trying to give you as many reasons to approve the application as I
Being an
can.
attorney.
Okay,
Okay, folks.
pain in your butt, but that's okay. Go ahead.
Sentiment on the two variances required.
I have no issues with, you know, as long as we include the conditions that have been stipulated.
I have no issues either.
Yeah, I agree. I don't have any issues with this application.
Okay.
And having made my little speech, I have no issues with approving either of the variances.
It was just a speech.
That's all.
Okay.
Yeah, the garage thing is, converting the garage, you know, that one's kind of a dead horse there, but specifically on no employees other than those who reside on the premises, right? And that's the one that is the hang up here. Mm-hmm. There's a space limitation that we kind of talked about. There's already within 8.8 a limitation on clients, customers, or other business invitees at any one time, saying that there's a restriction that exists already there for that, which they already talked about on a client side. That's really already a fairly limited amount, so kind of limits that concern. But B, specifically, there should be no employees other than those who reside on the premises. Are we just putting a variance on that writ large, or limiting the number of employees to the space permissibility of the facility?
We can grant a variance to allow people who don't live in the house, and we can condition the approval with a rough number of how many.
I mean, I guess because it's limited to how many people can fit, should it be to that or to a specific number?
No, let's limit it to the one employee that does not.
But the people that he wants to bring are employees, not, unless we're going to consider them business invitees, which at that point, then it's two. Again, I'm just.
The one employee who's not also a resident of the dwelling, with the exception of the quarterly meeting where it could go up to 4 employees. That's it.
But then that, again, talking about selling the house, then it's like the next business only has to be able to have quarterly meetings with 3 people, and that business has to be like it.
It's correct.
I guess I'm just playing like a rodeo of like.
Yeah, that's it. That's the condition.
Okay.
But if there is a sale then, and they want to change it, then they'd have to.
You can always run that, right?
Okay.
I mean, to me, if we're just saying one employee we're allowing there, and the other, like, virtual employees would have to meet the no more than 2 clients, customers, or business invitees, right? They would, if they came to the house, they would be one of those
business invitees,
right?
Okay.
Well, I think they would technically be employees, so, I mean,
Well, it's a
that's
business.
we're asking
business
for relief
invitees, right?
to allow the one part-time person, 2 times a week, and then one quarterly meeting for up to 4 employees in attendance for just that one day in every 3 months or something.
That's
No more than 3
I'm invited to the quarterly meeting.
A little sticker.
The end of the driveway.
Are there any other burning issues?
With drones, then you can fly over the house. See who's coming.
Dan, I don't think I can vote on this. I think we have enough people to vote on
I was going to say, I think
it. But I just.
you can certainly participate.
I think it's important that the restrictions that you have been talking about get placed in this application, again, when we grant it, if we grant it. Because I think that if you take a look at Prospect Street, down at the other end of Prospect Street, as you go south from this application area, that's all residential area down there.
Right.
And I would hate to see semi-commercial property encroaching on that area. I think we have to be careful about that.
Yes. Definitely. So given that kind of information, does anybody feel comfortable constructing a motion?
Can you go over the conditions again?
The conditions as presented during the hearing, the ones I wrote down were it would be one employee, people would be invited by appointment only, it would adhere to the home occupancy business that we have in our code, and that it would not be used, it would in no way be used for living space.
And did we talk about limiting the number of appointments per day? Did that ever come up?
That's in the code.
That's one of the conditions, okay.
The administrative assistant, I have noted here 3 or 4 hours a day and 2 days a week.
That's the one we'll list, that's the one we're allowing, who's not living in the house. So it sounds like that motion was that we are going to grant a variance from using a private garage only for the storage and security of motor vehicles, and we are going to grant a variance to permit employees who do not reside on the premises, and we're going to condition it to say that it is conditioned as one employee who does not live on the premises, that anyone else coming on would be by appointment only, that the business would be, follow the conditions of our home occupancy regulations, and that it would not be used at any time as living space.
Chairman, also the additional relief to allow the one quarterly
Quarterly
meeting to
meeting.
be more than one, say up to 4 employees, once a quarter, for one meeting per quarter.
Okay.
I will make a motion to approve application 2025-11 with the conditions that were previously stated, including the quarterly meeting of up to 4 employees.
Second.
Thank you, Kevin. May we have a roll call vote on that?
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Dr. Cortez?
Yes.
Mrs. Murphy Braddix?
Yes.
Mr. Mathewson?
Yes.
Mrs. DeBartolo?
Yes.
Vice Chair Weston?
Yes.
Chair McGinley?
Make it unanimous, yes.
Thank you very much.
Good luck with your new venture. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Good night.
Thank you.
Okay. Page 45. We can move on to our second application of the evening, application 2026-01, 63 Pease Avenue. Oh, come on, it's killing me.
He was just standing right there.
Yeah. He can hear it. I haven't gotten in much trouble without him. Oh, that's what it is. Wow, you don't last long here. Okay, he can hear us from here. Mr. Berger, if you would please come to the front, remain standing, our attorney will swear you in.
Say your full name for the record, please.
Andrew Berger.
Mr. Berger, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth?
I do.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Have a seat. If you'd be so kind as to tell us what it is you're looking for the board to do, which variances you need granted, and why.
I'm seeking approval to install a mini split on the side property at 63 Pease. I have a side setback requirements by the town of 8 feet. My current setback is 6.8, 6 feet, 8 inches. I would like to put a one compressor there, meeting the requirements that I spoke with the zoning officer about, which would be 18 inches off the ground affixed to the wall, 18 inches wide by 37 inches long, and that would be the mini split compressor. I'm eliminating, the purpose of this project is to eliminate window air conditioners in my house, as I'm not getting any younger, neither is my wife, so I figured it would be a lot more convenient to have mini splits, and I do not wish to afford the price of central air in a Cape. which if any of you have gone through that process, God bless you.
On the side of the house that you were looking to put the mini split on,
Yes.
Can you describe what is currently there, if there's a fence between your neighbor, and then how close the neighbor's house is to the...
Yeah, there's a chain link fence that rides along the property line at the front of my house all the way to the back, the entire property line all the way along the side. In addition, I have a fence that allows you to get into that side setback area, right, between my house and the fence. And I used to garden in there, plant every once in a while, but that's it. That's the reason for the fence, is to eliminate the deer.
Have you spoken to your neighbor who might be most impacted by any sound that this would generate?
Absolutely, and no issue. Actually, I picked a unit that is rather quiet by standard. It's a Mitsubishi unit, current state, to be able to do that. And fixing it to the wall based on the contractor telling me so would not have a loud amount of noise from the compressor.
And Mr. Berger, if I looked at your house correctly, the driveway to your neighbor is really actually like a buffer between where you propose to put this unit and where his house actually begins. Is that correct? To the left side of your house, is that his driveway?
If I'm facing on the left side, yes.
That's his driveway.
That's their driveway. That's correct.
Okay.
That's their.
But so that actually provides, in my mind, more distance between, the unit that you're proposing and where his actual house is. That's all.
I believe, yeah, my neighbor's property has approximately 2 feet from the driveway to the fence itself.
Okay. It's a close fit. I looked at it.
Yeah, I believe. I don't know that measurement, but I believe it's about 2 feet. Mm-hmm. It might be a little more, like under 3. Okay.
I would be more concerned why I'm bringing this up is if this house was closer, if the houses were closer together without that intervening open space, for lack of a better way of putting it.
Yeah, unfortunately, my house was built underneath the 8-foot setback that the town imposed. Mm-hmm. I'm living with that.
Okay.
And do you currently have the window air conditioning units on that side of the house?
I did. They're out now, so they're no longer there.
Okay.
I've also upgraded my electric to allow the mini splits there. That's already been completed, permitted, and approved.
Okay. And if you could venture a guess as to the size of the window air conditioning units that extend from the window out towards your neighbor, about how many inches do you think they are?
That 18,000 BTU unit that was in the wall, that is no longer there. I would guess that would probably be about 24 inches, 24 to 28 inches out from the wall.
Okay, so you had a unit that basically from a distance perspective was basically the same as what you're looking to do.
Actually, it will be under that.
Great.
Under.
No more questions from me.
Anyone else have questions for our applicant? Okay. Is this when we have the applicant stand up and move around? Okay.
You want me to stand up and move around?
Stacy. Okay. Is there anyone from the public who has questions? Seeing none, is there anyone from the public who'd like to make a statement about this application? Seeing none, I would open it to board deliberation. And I did not hear a lot of questions, so is there anything that is a burning issue with anybody?
Agree with the driveway. Nothing compelling argument there.
I think this will have a de minimis impact, Mr. Chairman, on, if we granted the variance on anybody's proper number.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve application 2026-01.
Second.
Are there any conditions for the approval? Okay, it's a motion to approve as requested. Conditioned on testimony only.
Could I just make a, one statement here?
Statement?
During the process, you asked me to send to 9 utilities, certified mail. I did do that. I got 2 returned to sender based on the addresses you gave me. So my suggestion is to please look at the list and update to the most current address for the utilities, because this might be a concern.
So we actually have done that, and we've gone first to because we get the list from the assessor's office, and it comes with the utility list. So it's actually something our office can't control, so we've gone to them. And then we've also now gone to the clerk's office regarding that list. But until there's a change, we have to use the list that we're given, and the applicants do as well. So we are working on it, but unfortunately, until that gets resolved, it has to be the list that's provided from the tax assessor's office.
So anyway, I just trying to save people some money and some frustration. All right.
We appreciate it. Now, we were at a point where we had a motion on the floor, a motion and a second, I believe.
Yes, you do.
Without condition. So may we have a roll call vote?
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Dr. Cortez?
Yes.
Mrs. Murphy Braddix? Mr. Mathewson?
Yes.
Mrs. DiBartolo?
Yes.
Vice Chair Weston?
Yes.
And Chair McGinley?
Yes. By my count, that was unanimous approval. That's 2 for 2 tonight.
Thank you very much.
Enjoy your project.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Okay.
Okay, how about what do you want to make it, a 10-minute break?
You can be generous.
All right. We are going to stand adjourned for 10 minutes. When we resume, we will look at application 2026-03, 2125 Grove Avenue. Please return at 9:05. 7 p.m. Thank you, everybody, for coming back. And we will turn it over to council for 2125 Grove Avenue.
Good evening. Mr. Chairman, it's time for me to open. Do I have the right to open right now?
First, we're going to say, Mr. Gassion, that I reviewed the application was incomplete, notice was proper, and we accepted your affidavit of service. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, council's name is Robert Gassion, the firm is Gassion Bamaco, 1 Boland Drive in West Orange. I represent the applicant in this matter of Bosty Construction LLC. My client is the contingent contract purchaser of 21 and 25 Grove Ave. This is an application seeking preliminary and final major site plan approval and associated bulk and use variance relief. My client is seeking to erect a residential townhouse development with 11 units, 2 of which are affordable units. The property is located slightly off Bloomfield Ave. It is C2 professional office and business zone. The proposed residential townhouse development is not permitted in that zone. We are seeking bulk variances, D1 use, D4 FAR, and D6 height relief, and of course the bulk variance. The witnesses you'll hear from are the applicant, Mohammed, the engineer, Sean Delaney, the architect, Russell Bodnar, and either Sean Delaney or Mike Petrie will serve as my planner. I'd like to call my first witness, the applicant, Mo Abbasi.
Okay.
Just a reminder, if everybody could please turn their microphones on.
It's all right now.
Good evening.
Mr. Bossy, state your full name and address for the record, please.
Mo Abbasi, ABBASI, 212 Tomahawk Lane, Franklin Lakes, New Jersey, 07417.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Mr. Abbasi, what is your occupation?
I'm a new home builder and developer.
And for how long have you been in that business?
I have been building for over 20 years, and I work with my father, who has been building longer before me.
Are you the contingent contract purchaser of 21 and 25 Grove Ave in Verona?
Yes.
And what is on that property at the present time?
Currently, there are 2 aging commercial structures and a large detached garage, as well as a large asphalt paved parking lot that covers most of the property.
And if this application that you are making were to be approved, would you demolish those buildings?
Yes.
And would you generally tell us what it is you're seeking approval to do? And please, Board, forgive me, I've had some allergy issues, and that's why I have the candy in my mouth.
We're proposing to build 11 townhouses, which includes 2 affordable units.
I have no further questions.
Thank you.
Can you explain to us a contingent contract purchaser? Either one.
I didn't hear what you say, Chris, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's the candy.
What size is it too?
Can you explain what a contingent contract purchaser means?
This contract is contingent upon my client's ability to get the approval to put these units up. If the approval is denied, he does not have to buy the property.
And can you explain the condition of the existing buildings that are on there right now? Are they dilapidated? Are they falling apart? Anything like that?
No, they're not dilapidated. They're just aging. They look like they're large homes, but they've been converted into commercial units. So there's many tenants occupying the 2 structures, and the rest of the property is a parking lot. They have some equipment stored in the back of the parking lot and a detached garage. So there's many small businesses in these 2 buildings.
But the buildings themselves are in good structural condition?
Yes.
Are the businesses currently, are the buildings currently being occupied by businesses, or do you have many vacant, do you have to have many vacant office space in there? Mr. Ryan, my client doesn't own the building.
Correct.
He's a contingent contract purchaser, so he doesn't have complete knowledge of that. I don't But believe I he'll would think answer he the would have done question, due but-
diligence to see what was in the building, no? Right. I do understand from the owner that there are many vacancies in the buildings. There are a few tenants. Some of them are month to month. Some of them have leases, but I know that the 2 properties do have a lot of vacancies.
So you said you have been in the business for 20-plus years or so.
Yes.
Where have you done new construction and development? What towns?
All over, Bergen County, Passaic County, Hudson County. Really, in development and construction, whenever a good opportunity presents itself, we go after it. There's no limitation to where we would go unless it's within reason of distance.
Have you done any construction and development in Verona or any of the neighboring towns?
No, I have not.
What made you choose this location?
The opportunity presented itself through a broker that I've been working with, and I became familiar with the current owner of the property, Jamie Weiss, and the opportunity looked to be interesting for my business, so we decided to go after it.
And did you have discussions with many of your, I guess, professionals in terms of why 11 units, 3 bedrooms, or other sizes? What were your thoughts and ideas of that?
I think you're going to hear a lot of testimony tonight from my engineering team and my architect as to the site plan and how we laid it out and what we thought would make sense in terms of density on the lot size. And we initially wanted to do 12 units. That was the proposal we came up with at first, the site plan. And we decided to reduce it to 11 to just accommodate some setbacks and make it a little bit more spacious for the project. So we did initially want 12. We reduced it to 11. We think it's more accommodating. We changed a few of the units to the affordable setup as well. So we have the 2 affordable units in the project included. So it's 9 units that are similar size and 2 units that are slightly smaller. But you'll hear that testimony.
And these will be for sale? They will be owned?
That's our intention at the moment, yes.
Okay, and set up as a
Association?
yes, like an association, yeah. Mhm.
Mr. Bassi, the affordable units, who came up with the number 2, and are they low income, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom? What's the design of those?
From my understanding, the requirement was 1.6 or 1.7 units.
Sure, the number was derived at after consultation with one of my associates who's familiar with that requirement. And the bedrooms here, I think it's a smaller unit. I think it still has 3 bedrooms, does it not?
Correct, it does.
That you'll hear direct testimony from the architect, of course.
You're referring to the
It's
20%
still, I think
requirement?
it's still 1,900 plus square foot unit, the affordable units.
Thank you.
Mr. Gassion, would that was based upon the 20% requirement, you know?
Basically that area.
I know it's
It is,
not going to
yes.
come out.
Again, I did not do the calculation. My associate did in conjunction with the client and the professionals.
Well, actually, they rounded it up if it's 20%.
We did round it up.
Gotcha, okay.
I believe it's 50%. 1.65.
Mr. Cassiano, my point, just for way down the road, and we're way ahead of this, but obviously, no matter the approval, it would have to be compliance with the affordable housing.
Absolutely,
Right.
we understand that.
Right.
If this doesn't comply, then we'll have to pay the fee or whatever is required.
Exactly.
But I think we're either in compliance or very close to in compliance.
Okay.
Mr. Rabasi, can you just share with me, have you had experience with a similar sized footprint, and if so, or how many, and in what basically general areas or cities, places that you've kind of done a similar setup in a similar footprint, size-wise?
Yes, we have built multiple structures before on large lots similar to this. We just recently completed 2 months ago about 0.6 acre project where we built 3 multifamily structures on it. That was in Ridgefield, New Jersey. We also work in Hudson County, like I mentioned before. We, about 6 months ago, finished a 5-story building, multifamily in Hoboken as well. So wherever we do go to, different areas, sometimes it's a large 3/4 of an acre property, an acre property. Sometimes they're smaller lots, higher density, vertical build. So I do have experience building multifamily and multiple structures on the same lot. We have worked on projects before. We had to extend utilities such as sewer lines and gas lines and water lines and whatnot. And so it's something we're familiar with, yes.
That's great. I mean, just in terms of a footprint like this where you are kind of tucking in townhouses like this, can you just give me a experience with that and whereabouts?
Most recently in North Bergen, New Jersey, we built 8 units where there were 4 structures next to each other simultaneously. And the one that I just finished a few months ago was in Ridgefield, New Jersey, which was 3 structures, multifamily. So those are the 2 most recent projects.
Great, thank you.
There's an existing fence that goes around the property. Is that fence owned by the property owner? Do you know?
The wooden fence around
Yeah.
the property, from From my discussion with our engineer, we do believe that property is inside our property line, yes.
So there is an encroachment. I believe there's also a driveway encroachment, right, from another adjacent property?
The driveway encroachment on the left side?
Yes.
Yeah, he will testify to that. Yes, there is.
And those encroachments are going to be removed?
Well, if the encroachment is from the adjacent property owner, we'll certainly be seeking to have them remove the encroachment.
And the property owners will be notified about that, the adjacent?
We can't do anything. We don't own the property at the present time. But if we do, we certainly will notify the property owner to remove the encroachment.
It is a very minor encroachment, if I remember correctly.
Right, yeah.
What are the addresses of the developments that you just told us about in Ridgefield and?
The property in Ridgefield is 849, 851, 853 Pleasant View Terrace, Ridgefield, New Jersey. The one I mentioned in Hoboken was 607 Hudson Street in Hoboken. It actually abuts Stevens University, so that was a fun project dealing with the university, the college students. It was very, very challenging. And the properties I mentioned in North Bergen were on 51st Street in North Bergen, 1426 dash 50, I think it was.
Thank you.
The last project that I'd like to mention we're not building yet at the moment, but we are working on 6 townhouses in Hackensack on Johnson Avenue, 236-238-240 Johnson Ave. Rooftop terraces, 3 bedrooms each, 6 townhouses.
Are there any other questions from the board for our applicant? Okay.
Mr. Delaney. I'm sorry.
Is there
I
anyone
thought you
from
were
the
done. My
public who has
apologies,
a
Mr.
question?
Chairman.
I was just going to ask if there's anyone from the public who has a question of our applicant. He's under oath. If you do have a question of the applicant, you need to come to the microphone, give us your name, and this is a time to ask him a question. Only a question on what he's talked about or what you think he can answer as the applicant. There'll be a time at the end to actually make a statement to tell us.
Okay, just a question about the general, nothing about what he said. So do you need my name?
Name and town.
Ann Spinweber, I'm from Cedar Grove, here on behalf of Mary Fisher. Was there a traffic impact study done?
There is no traffic study, if that's your question.
That's my question.
No traffic study.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. That's the way it's supposed to work. Okay. No one else having questions? Counselor, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you. Mr. Delaney.
Mr. Delaney, state your full name and business address for the record, please.
Absolutely. My name is Sean Delaney, Petrie Engineering, 155 Passaic Avenue in Fairfield, New Jersey.
And can you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth?
I do. Thank you.
Mr. Delaney, would you please review your qualifications as a civil engineer?
Absolutely. So I guess I'll just jump to the chase. I graduated from NJIT in 2017.
Oh, it's a requirement to appear here, isn't it?
I also graduated from Rutgers University in 2023 with my master's in business administration. I'm currently a partner with Petrie Engineering. I've been with the firm for 8 years, during which time I've worked on site improvement infrastructure projects throughout the surrounding area, Montclair, West Orange, etc.
I submit, Mr. Chairman, that Mr. Delaney is qualified as an expert in the field of engineering.
I would think so, if Mr. Petrie hired him. That
Thank
would, we would accept him as an engineer.
Mr. Delaney, would you describe the location of the property and the surrounding conditions?
Absolutely. I'm going to refer to a series of exhibits tonight. So for the most part, these are colorized versions of the plans that were submitted to the board previously. This first sheet here that we're looking at is just a blow-up of the aerial provided on sheet SP1, our title sheet. Do you want to mark these into the exhibit?
Not if they're part of the application.
Okay.
As long as they're exact.
Yes. So the subject property is lot 22, block 1702, and it's more commonly known as 21 to 25 Grove Avenue. Property is situated on the eastern side of Grove Avenue, and it's approximately 550 feet north of its intersection with Bloomfield Avenue. So as we look at this aerial on the boards here, what we did is we superimposed the township tax maps and the township zoning information. Just so we can orient everybody, Bloomfield Avenue is running across the bottom of the sheet, running east and west, and in this case left and right, with Grove Avenue running up and down, which is north. And Grove Avenue, just like Bloomfield Avenue, is a county road in this location. This portion of Grove Avenue, it has a 60-foot wide right-of-way and a cartway that is approximately 40 feet wide. Directly in front of our site, Grove Avenue is a 2-lane road with 1 lane in each direction. And parking is only permitted on the eastern side of Grove, which is the applicant's side of the street. Along the frontage of our site, like I said, there's existing parking. All of those are metered parking spaces with 4 in total. As we go closer to the intersection with Bloomfield Avenue, the southbound lane splits into 2 lanes. One is a dedicated left turn onto Bloomfield Avenue, with the other lane being a straight or right lane. Just to the north of our site on Grove Avenue, the roadway expands a little bit and provides for parking on both sides of the street. Again, it's still just 1 lane in each direction. From a zoning perspective, the property itself is located within the C2 Professional Office and Business District zone. This area is a bit of a mixed bag of zones. There's a series of zones within 200 feet of the property. So as we look to our south, we're abutted by the Verona Animal Hospital, which is located in the same zone as us, the C2 zone. The properties along the Bloomfield Avenue corridor and even directly across the street where that existing strip mall is, all those properties are located within the TC or the town center zone. To our north, so a plan north as well, is an existing single-family home which is located in the R50B residential zone. And then to our rear is a series of multifamily residences, and those are all located within the R50 zone.
Describe the existing conditions of the subject property.
What we're looking at here is a colorized version of sheet SP2, which is the existing conditions and demo plan. So the subject property is slightly irregular in shape. It almost looks rectangular, but it does have a skewed property line on that northern side. The width of the lot varies from 144 feet wide at the site frontage on Grove Avenue up to 156 feet wide as we approach the rear property line. Overall, the lot has a depth of approximately 206 feet and contains a total area of 31,210 square feet, so just under 3/4 of an acre. The property currently contains, as Mr. Abbasi pointed out, 2 principal commercial buildings, and those are both shown as the brown hatch, located toward the front of the site. So on the north side of those buildings is an existing driveway that leads to a large parking lot in the rear, as well as a small, I believe it's a single car garage. As you can see looking at this figure here, the site is pretty well dominated by those 2 buildings and that large parking area in the rear. The existing impervious coverage on the site is 69.4%, which is over the maximum allowable of 65%.
Can you describe the existing grading and drainage patterns of these properties?
Absolutely. So this property generally slopes from the southwest corner, so bottom left, to the northeast corner, the top right, with a pretty significant grade change throughout the site. That bottom left corner that I talked about, that southwest, has a high elevation of 101. And as we work our way to that northeast corner, it drops to 87 feet. So it's about 14 feet of grade differential. A little bit deceiving if you stand there. It doesn't feel like it's 14 feet. So the majority of this grade change actually occurs along that entrance driveway, where it drops about 7 feet in total as you come onto the site. Because of this grade change, those existing buildings, while they appear to be 2.5 stories from the front, are actually 3 to 3.5 stories at the rear with walkout basements. From a drainage perspective, virtually all of the stormwater on site drains to the existing 2 inlets. I'll point to those, and that northeast corner of the parking lot. Those 2 inlets then connect together and discharge an existing 8-inch PVC pipe through the adjacent properties to the east.
Would you describe generally the proposed improvements?
Mr. Lane, we're going to, because their color and the application wasn't, can we go back and mark the first that you referenced as A1? Absolutely. And for the record, what is the title on that block, please?
So the title of this is Aerial Photograph with Tax and Zoning Information, with the sheet note name being Figure 1.
And then A2, please.
A2 is also SP2 in our set, and it's titled Existing Conditions and Demo Plan.
That's the same as SB2, except that's a colored version, is that correct?
That is correct.
Can you clarify those 2 drains that are there? You said that they discharge to the property to the east?
That is correct, yeah. So right now, there's all the stormwater from the site comes down. It drains to these 2 inlets located at the low point of the site. They come together through an 18-inch pipe that eventually discharges off the site to the east through an 8-inch PVC pipe.
Do you know where that goes?
I don't know exactly where it goes. I understand that it goes through the neighboring properties. My belief is that it connects to the existing drainage system on the street behind us, but I haven't actually seen that connection myself. Mark this as A3.
Please.
So A3 is a colorized version of sheet SP3 in our set, which is our layout plan. This does differ slightly from the plan in the package, and then we added some additional setbacks to the decks. That's the only change.
Everything you talked about has been marked in heaven, is that correct?
That is correct.
Describe the proposed improvements.
Absolutely. So as Mr. Abbasi pointed out, we're proposing to construct 11 3-bedroom townhouse units on the site. These units are separated into 2 distinct groupings, which are those brown shaded hatches on our plan here. So on the northern side of the site, we have 6 units, and those are labeled as units 1 through 6. And then along the southern side of the site, we have an additional 5 units labeled as units 7 through 11. 2 of the 11 units will be affordable, as Mr. Abbasi pointed out. So these units were designed to all face inwards toward the center of the site, with the front facade of the buildings including a walkway leading up to a covered front porch, along with a garage door. The majority of these units include a 2-car garage on the ground floor level. However, units 4 and 5, which are the 2 smaller units on the northern grouping of buildings, they only have a 1-car garage. The southern grouping of buildings, so again, units 7 through 11, were designed to comply with the required front yard and side yard setbacks. So in this case, the required front yard setback is 20 feet, and we set the building against the required 15-foot setback from that southern property line. This building does require a setback variance to the rear yard. We're proposing a setback of 46.5 feet, where 50 feet is required. Focusing our attention on that northern building, so units 1 through 6. The northern unit was also designed to comply with the minimum front yard setbacks. This is actually set back just a touch more than the required 20 feet. But we do have a setback variance for the side yards and the rear yard. So as I mentioned before, that northern property line is a little bit askew. It's not quite perpendicular to Grove Avenue. So because of that, the proposed townhouse units actually vary setback-wise. At the front corner of the site, it's 11.6 feet setback, whereas we're getting to the back of those units, it's setback 18.6 feet. So again, a setback is required. If I can actually point to that setback on this, we show it as like an orange line. So the majority of the units actually comply with that 15-foot setback. It's just a small portion of the front 2 units that don't comply. And again, as I mentioned, the rear yard setback is required here. We are proposing 38.6 feet where that 50 is required. As an amenity for each of these townhouse units, we're proposing a modest 10-foot by 10-foot deck on the back of each unit. So in addition to the setback variances, we're also proposing a building coverage and FAR variance. The proposed building coverage for this is 31.9%, where the maximum allowable is 30. And I do have to apologize to the board. Our plans had an incorrect FAR on the title sheet. So we listed a gross floor area total square footage of 29,854 square feet. That is correct. Next to that, we provided the FAR ratio, and we said that it was 0.57. It's actually 0.957. So we left out the 9. I apologize for that.
Would you review the proposed parking and circulation?
Absolutely. So as I mentioned, all of those units are designed to face inward toward the site with their front doors and their garage doors. So the site will be serviced by a center drive aisle running east and west through the site. And this drive aisle provides access to both the garages under all of the units, as well as a small parking lot located at the rear. The drive aisle width on this site varies. Between the townhouses, the drive aisle width was designed to be 20 feet wide. As we get to that back parking lot, it widens out to be 24 feet wide. So a variance is required for that 20-foot wide portion of the drive aisle, since 24 feet is what's required under the ordinance. Looking back at that small rear parking lot, we're proposing to have 4 parking spaces back there, one of which will be ADA accessible as required under ADA law. It's also worth noting that for the units on the northern side, so again, units 1 through 6 on our plans, that those all have parking in front of their garages. In total, we're proposing 32 physical parking spaces. As we're all aware, the state has recently adopted the EV charging station requirements, so this development is required to have 4 EV charging stations associated with that. We're proposing to have those located inside of the garages themselves. Under the EV regulations, EV parking spaces can count as 2 spaces up to 10% of the requirement. So based on this, 3 of our EV spaces count as 2. So we're technically providing 35 spaces on site when accounting for that EV credit. Based on the township and RSIS parking standards, the proposed development is required to have 27 parking spaces. And again, we're proposing 35, so we're in excess of the requirement. Each of the parking spaces provided will measure 9 feet by 18 feet width and depth, which complies with the RSIS requirements. Finally, one of the things I want to point out is that this proposed development drastically reduces the impervious coverage and the amount of motor vehicle surface on site. So right now, I mentioned we have 69.4% impervious on site today. The proposed design brings it down to 61.8%, which is now below the maximum allowable of 65.
Now, as with any development, there's improvements in the right-of-way. Would you describe the improvements in the right-of-way?
Absolutely. So we are proposing improvements within the right-of-way. Again, it is a county right-of-way, so we'll have to get all these improvements and the site approved by the county. But we're proposing to construct that new site entrance in the center. So again, the existing entrance is closer to the single-family home to our north. So we're moving that down to the center. We're proposing all new curbing along our frontage, as well as all new sidewalks. I mentioned before that we had 4 metered parking spaces in front of our site. We're still proposing to have 4. The 2 metered parking spaces on the southern side of our driveway. Those will remain as is, but we will have to relocate 2 of the meters to the northern side to accommodate the new driveway location.
Now, can you review the grading and stormwater improvements in conjunction with the stormwater requirements?
Absolutely. So I will mark A4. And A4 is listed in our sheet set as SP4.1, and this is our grading and drainage plan. So we designed the site generally to match the existing grading patterns on site. As I mentioned before, the site does drop quite a bit from front to back, about 14 feet, which really is not conducive to a townhouse development like this. So what we're proposing to do is maintain that same general pitch of sloping from front to back, but we're going to be generally flattening out the site. And we're going to be doing that by filling within the center drive aisle, even filling for some of the units, and then having our grade behind the units and along the rear property line drop back down to existing grade. So to accommodate that grade change, we are proposing 2 relatively small retaining walls on the site. One of them is going to be along that northern property line, and it's going to have a maximum height of 3 feet, so not very tall at all. And then along that rear property line, we're going to be having a small retaining wall again with a maximum height of 4 feet. So as was mentioned earlier, there are several variances with this application, one of which is going to be the building height. In this case, the building height we analyzed for each individual unit. So the height varies for each unit from a low of 34.09 feet to the highest unit is technically 44.48 feet. And this is measured from average grade to the top of the roof. It's worth pointing out that the maximum height in this zone is 35 feet. So the primary driver behind these building heights being above that 35 feet is that we're filling the site. And Verona has a unique ordinance that requires us to measure building height from average grade to the top of the roof. An average grade is defined as the lower of the existing or the proposed grades. So for those rear townhouse units where we're filling the site to bring it up, to a more reasonable elevation for the units, the height calculation punishes us by making us use those lower elevations in existing conditions. In some cases, the existing grades may be 4 to 5 feet lower than the proposed grade. So the perceived height of the buildings when you're standing on site won't be that it's 44 feet tall. That's just if you're measuring it from some of those existing grades.
I have a question. Can you define the top of the roof?
I believe it's measured to the ridge.
And what if there's a bulkhead?
Then we measure it to the bulkhead. I believe our site data chart on the sheet SP42 actually gives both measurements as part of the application because we weren't sure how to interpret that. Excellent question. So moving on to stormwater, we talked a lot about grading. As I mentioned earlier, all the stormwater from the site today runs toward that northeast corner of the site through that existing 8-inch PVC pipe. We're proposing to maintain that same general drainage pattern, although we're reducing the overall flows off-site by the virtue that we're reducing impervious coverage. So to accomplish getting all of this water around the site and back to that northeast corner, we're proposing a series of swales, one along the northern property line, one along the southern, and those connect to a series of inlets along the rear that eventually connect to that existing pipe. So the way this was designed was to not have any stormwater running off the property to our southern neighbor or to our northern neighbor, since no water currently goes to them today.
So the swales will help avoid that issue?
Yes, they will.
Would you discuss the proposed utilities?
So I will mark A5.
Counselor, is that okay, as they're marking?
Yes.
A5.
A5 is sheet SP 4.4 in our set, which is labeled as the utility plan. So since we're demolishing all the existing improvements on site, all the existing utilities will also be cut and capped, and we're providing all new utilities, connections, and services for these 11 townhouse units. We'll be providing a new sanitary sewer that's going to be located in the center of that drive aisle and connects to the existing system within Grove Avenue. And we are proposing that that system be connected by gravity. That was one of the other reasons that we felt it was necessary to fill the site to get these buildings up. If we were to lower these buildings any lower, the sanitary sewer would no longer be by gravity, and we would have to institute a pump system. Running parallel to the water main, so it's the existing sanitary sewer main, we're proposing a new 6-inch water main that will run down that center drive aisle. All the services for the units will come off of that water main, and at the end, the very end of the parking lot, we're proposing a new fire hydrant in the event of an emergency. Of course, we'll work with your fire official to confirm that location. Additionally, we're proposing new gas and electric services. Those are actually proposed to run along the rear, so the northern and southern side of the townhouses. And we would anticipate meters being placed on the backs of those units. But that's subject to coordination with PSE&G. The proposed electric services would all be run underground.
Can you review the proposed landscape?
Can you clarify if they're sprinklered?
If the landscaping is sprinkled? Oh, you mean fire for the building?
Yeah.
It's my understanding that it's not.
Do you think the current building or are you planning on
I'm sorry,
You mean the current building is not sprinkled?
I'm not sure about the current building, but
Or sprinklering as well?
yeah, it's my understanding that the proposed buildings will not be fire sprinkled. But the architect would know better on that. I believe we're up to A6. A6 will be our landscape plan, labeled SP5 in our set. So we're proposing to build a set of landscape berms located at the front of the site on either side of that entrance drive. These landscape berms will vary in height between about 18 to 24 inches tall, and they're designed to help screen the proposed buildings as well as the parking lot itself. Planted along the top of these berms, we're proposing a mixture of Skyland evergreens and American hollies, both of which have been designed to provide year-round screening. Within the center islands of the parking lot, we're proposing a mixture of deciduous trees, including autumn gold, linden little leaf, and flowering dogwoods. These were designed to break up the facade of the townhouses, to help separate the driveways, and to provide for a contrast against both the facade and against the evergreen buffer in the front. Finally, at the rear of the site, we're proposing two large red maples to help shade those proposed lawn areas in the rear. And then we're also proposing an evergreen screening around the perimeter of the site, comprised of eastern red cedar. And that's what we're showing with these evergreens along the southern, rear, and even northern property line.
Mr. Delaney, if I might, are all of those plantings that you are proposing consistent, are they within the Verona ordinance for the desired greenery?
Yes, so we did propose all landscaping to be compliant with Verona's approved list. You kind of beat me to it already, but the Shade Tree Commission did have some comments about recommended changings. They wanted us to swap the red maple for a native oak. We have no objections to that. They also wanted us to look at the spacing of the evergreens. The intent behind the tight spacing of evergreens is to provide screening at the onset of the project. But we can work with the Shade Tree Commission to adjust it as they see fit. It's important to note with those evergreens that they're proposed on top of those retaining walls. So they're not going to be screening those 3-foot retaining walls. They'll be helping to screen the parking lot and the buildings. So in order to construct the proposed improvements and the new landscaping, grading, and drainage, we do have to remove 13 of the existing trees on site. 8 of those range in size from 16 to 15 inches. Only 1 is between 16 and 23 inches, and the last 4 are over 24 inches. So based on Verona's tree removal ordinance, we do have to plant 26 new trees, including the evergreen buffer that we're proposing. We're proposing to plant 150 trees on site, so far in excess of what's required. We also did try to preserve as many of the existing trees around the perimeter of the site as possible.
Can you please review the proposed lighting plan?
So A7 will be our lighting plan labeled in our set as sheet SP6.1. So the proposed lighting was designed to light the driveways and parking areas. We're proposing 5 post-mounted fixtures shown here in magenta. All of these fixtures are dark sky compliant. They have house size shields, and their light points downward only. And this is the fixture that we're proposing for the site. It's fairly modern and clean. These fixtures are all designed to face inward, so none of them are going to be facing outwards towards any neighbors, minimizing any kind of glare or lighting on neighboring properties. I believe there's a question about the timing of the lights. They'll be on dusk to dawn timers.
Now, based on your review of the consulting engineer's letter, do you have some turning template issues you're ready to discuss?
Absolutely. So we prepared a handful of turning templates. The first turning template was TM1.
That would be what, grade A7? 8.
So this was submitted to the board as part of the package. Again, it's turning movements labeled TM1. So again, as I discussed earlier, one of the variances that we're seeking is for a minimum drive aisle width between the townhomes of 20 feet compared to the 24 feet. So these turning templates were designed to show that cars parked on the northern units' driveways have sufficient space to back up and pull forward without impacting any of their parking spaces or garages. Weight-wise, so this is new to the set. This was not submitted previously as part of our application. These were prepared for tonight's meeting. So I believe we're up to A9. A9.
John, you're away from the microphone, just speak a little louder.
Sorry, this is turning exhibit prepared just for this evening's presentations. Labeling it as A9, it's labeled as turning movements in TM2. So this shows the turning movements for the garages for the southern units. It shows that the cars can back out of their garages into the drive aisle and out without impacting any parked cars in those northern drive aisle spaces. So again, this just shows that that 20-foot drive aisle is sufficient for the proposed use. We also prepared additional turning templates for our fire trucks. So during an emergency, a fire truck would have to pull into the site facing forwards, and then after it was able to put the extinguisher to fire or deal with any kind of emergency, it would back out onto Grove Avenue and go on its way back to the fire station. Similarly, any kind of deliveries on site. So this is not like an Amazon delivery. These are people moving into their homes, large box truck deliveries. We modeled an SU-30 and showed that can back into the site safely from Grove Avenue and then pull out of the site once it's completed its move-in. And finally, one of the comments in the letter was that the site seems a little bit constrained for turning templates based on that 20-foot drive aisle width. So we understand that fire trucks, their emergency vehicles, big flashing lights, hopefully come here very infrequently, can back out onto the road. That wouldn't be as practical for an ambulance. So we wanted to show that an ambulance could pull onto the site, turn around in the rear parking lot with a K-turn, one more turn than a K-turn, and then leave the site as well safely.
Now, did you have an opportunity to review the Boswell report in conjunction with stormwater management?
Yes, we did.
And can you discuss that, please, for the board?
Absolutely. So overall with that letter, we take no objection. We have no problem addressing those comments, and if this board acted favorably on this application, we would have no problem with that letter being a condition of approval. Many of those items are technical in nature, so I don't want to bore the board and go through all of them. But a couple of the important items that I think we should be discussing with the board. So we completely agree that this is a major development, and we will have to comply with Verona's major development ordinance. We also agree with the letter that we have to provide water quality. When we first read the ordinance, we believe that it referred to the states.
Hold on, Kathleen, did you provide us the Boswell reports? Or PD?
That was, yeah. It's dated December 2nd, if that helps you.
I don't remember seeing that.
There were two separate reports from Boswell. One was the stormwater, one was the regular engineering.
They were on the departmental review.
I don't think I saw those either.
I have
Those were emailed. We don't have hard copies here.
These should have been in your packets.
Mr. Blaine, while they're doing that, can we identify and mark the last couple?
Right.
So we're at A9, is your TM2.
Perfect. So then A10 will be TM3. And that is labeled fire truck turning movements. Okay. A11 is SU-30 turning movements, TM4. And then finally A12 is our ambulance turning movements, TM5.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome.
Go back, please, to the stormwater management. I think you're almost done discussing that, but if you can finish up.
Absolutely.
Excuse me 1 minute. Mr. Chair, would you like me to make copies of the Boswell report for the board right now?
I
think this is going to be challenging to go through all this.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't anticipate us finishing this evening.
No, neither do I.
So if they could be done,
For next meeting?
given to the board before the continuation, that would give us enough time to look them over.
And the environmental issue report.
Right.
And we just have copies of that. That was
Hard copies of all the department reviews.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Edward.
Okay. If you're done with the stormwater, then please, if you return to Boswell's engineering review letter.
Yes, absolutely, Bob. Before I jump onto the engineering review letter, just a couple finishing comments on the stormwater, the stormwater portion of it. So comment number 2 in that letter referred to water quality. We misread the ordinance when we first looked at this project. We believe that it referred to the state's ordinance, which is that you need a quarter of an acre or more of motor vehicle surface to do water quality. Verona's ordinance is more stringent, as pointed out in the letter. So we do have to provide water quality for this site, and any revised plans will incorporate that. Likely on this site, the way that we would incorporate it is through the use of pervious pavers or pervious asphalt on site. So that's how we would address the water quality. And then comment number 8 for this letter. We understand that Boswell's concerns with utilizing the existing 8-inch pipe going off-site. As pointed out later in their engineering letter, we are allowed to continue having water going in the direction that it's historically gone from. But the applicant and I discussed it, and we will provide detention on site to help minimize the flows leaving it and meet the water quantity reductions in Verona's ordinance to help lessen any kind of impact on that 8-inch pipe and the surrounding properties. Okay, now I'm ready for these.
So next would be Boswell's engineering review letter.
Absolutely. So again, as with the stormwater letter, we have no issues with the letter. We would accept that as a condition of any approval from this board. A lot of those comments, again, are technical. So just a couple of quick items to highlight. I'm going to jump to number 11, which deals with refuse. Because this is a residential development, it's our understanding that the township would collect garbage and recycling, just like the fire truck or the box truck that we showed at Turning Templates. Garbage truck would back onto the site, it would collect the garbage and then leave. We anticipate that each unit would keep garbage in its own garage, since each unit has a garage, and they would wheel it out to its frontage. So not the Grove Avenue frontage, but to the edge of its driveway within the site, and then be collected from there. Comment number 12, that deals with snow removal. It's winter, snow removal is a big deal. So again, this is going to be an HOA since it is a condo and has an association, and they'll contract with a private snowplow contractor. Because we have excess parking, we wouldn't anticipate during a snow event that there'd be visitors over, or that rear parking lot would really be utilized at all. So snow could be pushed through those parking spaces and into those large landscapes and grass areas to the north and south. Comment number 36 in the letter talks about how any walls over 4 feet tall need to be designed and inspected. We'll absolutely provide that. And then we also understand that under comment number 46, a formal soil moving application would need to be submitted to the council if this project is approved.
Now, the letter from the construction official, Kathleen Nish, do you have any discussion with regard to that?
Absolutely. So again, willing to accept that as a condition of approval. Many of those comments are architectural in nature, so I'll defer to our project architect. I believe I addressed a lot of those comments through my testimony this evening. Just a couple of quick things to talk about. We understand that we need Essex County approval for this project, as well as Hudson Soil Conservation District.
And last report I think you reviewed was the Shade Tree Commission report.
Yep, again, we take no exception to that letter. I'm happy to change out some of those species, the red maple to native oak or the dogwoods, to a different flowering tree. We'd also be happy to work with them on the spacing of those evergreens. And again, we're providing enough planting here that changing the spacing would not preclude us from meeting the required tree planting under the removal ordinance.
Now, there was an interested citizen who asked about a traffic study. In light of the fact that there's more than sufficient parking allocated at this proposal, do you think a traffic study is required?
I don't believe that a traffic study is required. We're looking at 10 residential units. I don't have it in front of me, but RSIS looks at, I believe it's 10 trips per day for a unit of this size. Over 11 units is 110 trips in a day. A traffic impact statement is usually required when you have over 100 trips in a peak hour, which is not what we would expect here.
I have no further questions of this witness, Mr. Chairman.
I would imagine the board has considerable questions because we covered a considerable amount of information. So I would hope that we can go back through those. I'd like to start just by saying, your driveway coming in, it faces another small development on the other side of stores. Does it approximate the two driveways in that particular?
Excellent question. I'll go back to our aerial so we can see that development across the street. So right now, the strip mall across the street, it has an entrance in on the northern side of the site, has angled parking throughout, and then you have an exit lane on the southern edge of the site. So right now, we have a drive aisle on the northern side, which is in conflict with that entrance drive on that side. So what we're proposing to do is put it in the middle and kind of split those driveways so we're as far away from each of them as possible.
Okay.
You had mentioned that you were having, it's like a steep property drop. What is the visibility coming in and out of this?
That's a great question. So when we designed the grading coming in and out of the site, right now that driveway is steep, as a car comes up. So what we're proposing to do is we have a relatively flat area. I believe it's about 2 to 3% at that front. The landscape berms are behind that. So as you pull up to the stop sign, you have clear visibility looking up and down the street both ways.
Can somebody make a left out of here?
That would be our intention, although again, this has to go in front of Essex County and they'll be the ultimate determiner of if we can make a left out of it or not.
And does this require a loading zone too? Is that part of the variance request?
Typically, we don't include loading zones for smaller multifamily residential projects. That's something you see with much, much larger developments, 100 units plus. Any project we've done of this scale has never included a designated loading area. They would be able to park, though, in front of their garage units. Most of those driveways are about 20 feet wide, plus they have their little area in front of their doors. So there should be sufficient area to park, a delivery truck, moving truck, stuff like that. We wouldn't anticipate for townhouses of this size, any large tractor trailers making deliveries.
I'm just thinking, increasing Amazon orders.
Yeah, so
Lots of
any kind of
trips.
Amazon orders, FedEx orders, UPS, we imagine that would be handled much like it is up and down the remainder of Grove Avenue for any of those homes. They would park on the street, walk up to the property, deliver the packages, and then go about their way.
Okay, what about regular mail?
Regular mail would be the same thing, be handled as it is with any single-family home along Grove Avenue.
Is there mailboxes?
I believe the
Covered
intent
around
is to have each unit have a mailbox on its front door, although we do have to coordinate that with the post office.
But you said the garbage truck is going to back in?
Yeah, typically garbage pickup for residential properties like this happens earlier in the mornings. Yeah, they would back into the site and then be able to drive out. We'd prefer them to back in, that's the safer movement, rather than backing out onto the roadway.
I guess I'm having a hard time grasping this nonchalant attitude that we're taking to everybody backing in and doing all this dance and understanding the ramifications of this driveway.
In 20 feet.
In 20 feet. Additionally, there's kind of this glossing over of 35 available spots when 35 spots is predicated on a series of dominoes of variances being allowed, right? It's predicated on a C variance for the width of it, predicated on us permitting the length of the driveways because of overhang. It's predicated on us getting past this no turnaround there because every single available space is being used for parking. Like, I guess I'm just having a really hard time with how we're just glossing over 35 spots as a guarantee. So that's kind of one that the surety about this is kind of leading me to my next one, which is, did you look into how our emergency services operate in Verona? We do not do single vehicle responses in Verona.
Understood. So we did, and you could fit multiple vehicles on here. Again, in my experience, a fire truck pulling between two burning buildings or directly next to a burning building is pretty rare. Most of the time, these fires are fought from the street, so they don't park multi-million-dollar pieces of equipment next to it. If they were to pull onto the property, yeah, you could probably fit 2, maybe 3 fire trucks all in a row, along with other emergency response vehicles. I don't think that would be an issue. As far as the number of parking spaces goes, if we were to widen the drive aisle to 24 feet, there'd be no loss in parking spaces. And when I say that, some of the original concepts that we developed, at least the first layout plan, if I can, included a 24-foot wide drive aisle along the center. But when you do that, we eliminate these landscape areas along the front sides of those southern units. And we felt that providing those landscape breaks, providing trees, breaking up the facade, and reducing impervious coverage was an added benefit. So we could widen it out to 20 foot.
Aren't the landscape breaks would allow you to barely get into the 18-foot area so that we can possibly look at the variance for the off-street parking without overhang?
So that's a really good question. So the way the turning movements work for those cars backing out of these units is the movements are wholly contained within that 20-foot drive aisle. These units don't rely on these spaces to make those turns. Does that answer the question?
I guess, I thought one of the variances you're looking to seek is that the parking stalls are 18 feet when I think 20 feet is required. So would that cut in, so with making the drive aisle 24 feet, would that reduce the parking stall length?
Great question. So yes, parking spaces in Verona are required to be 9 feet wide by 20 feet deep, with the exception of spaces that have landscaping in front of them. So these spaces are allowed to be reduced to 18. So these 4 are conforming. The spaces in front of these garages, yes, they are only 18 feet deep. Again, Verona requires 20, RSI requires it to be 18 feet. If we were to widen this drive aisle to 24 feet, I would not push the drive aisle to the north. I would actually pull it to the south. So these spaces would be kept. The drive aisle would go to 24 feet, but those landscape areas in front of the stoops, those would be eliminated. Yes, there was a question about eliminating that landscaping. Doesn't it push us closer to the impervious coverage? We have a little bit of flexibility in it. And again, we're overparked technically by the ordinance, so we could remove these rear spaces. I understand everybody's concern about 20-foot drive aisles versus 24-foot. But one of the interesting things to look at is when we look at our ambulance turning movement, widening this to 24 feet doesn't change this movement because they're doing it within those little 11-foot driveways that couldn't fit a car. So widening it to 24 feet would not change this movement. It would still be a safe movement for an ambulance.
Would you be able to provide the dimension that's from, I know units 7 to 11, they don't have garage parking, right? Not garage parking, driveway parking, the western units.
Correct, yes, they have garage parking but not driveway.
And that length from the garage door to that landscape, it's 11 feet?
11 feet, yes.
And a normal car is 8 to 9 feet in length. So technically your car can still fit in that space.
Well, a normal car is 15 to 16 feet in length. In width are you referring to?
No, in length, like a small car.
No, I mean, we looked at like even, my business partner drives an Audi TT, very small compact car if you guys are familiar with it. And even that was like 14 feet long, it wouldn't be able to fit there. So unless they're gonna park a smart car there, which are exceptionally rare these days, I wouldn't anticipate cars being able to be parked there at all.
The only concern is residents usually tend to use garages as storage. So a concern is that they might start parking. So is there a way that you have thought of that you're going to prevent the residents from parking into that space, that 11-foot long space?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I believe it was the construction official's letter asked about providing fire lane striping. So one of the things we could look to do is provide a fire lane along the front of those units. So that again, we have proper circulation for fire trucks on site, a place for them to park, and then that would prevent these units from parking within that fire lane.
Yeah, that's one of my big concerns too. I mean, that assumes that behaviorally people are going to act, appropriately, and that is not always the case.
We could also work to include something in the HOA's regulations about parking in front of those units.
So it's your testimony and belief that from a part, since they're all 3-bedroom units, the spaces that don't have any parking in front, they have 2 spots in the garage. So it's your testimony basically that they will not be using any of the 4 spaces that are not part of the garage or in front of the unit?
So that's an excellent question. So what RSIS says is that 3-bedroom townhouse units have a requirement of 2.4 spaces per unit, with 0.4, that 0.4 being for visitors. So yes, 0.4 over those units, I believe, comes out to, I think it's exactly 4 spaces, which are the 4 visitor spaces that we're parking in the rear. So that would be for their visitors, and then they would be the ones parking inside of the garage. So that's part of the reason that we provided those extra 4 in excess of the overall requirement of 27.
Aren't there also 2 units on the other side that only have 1-car garage in 1 spot?
Correct. So those units have a 1-car garage with 1 spot in front of them, so they still have 2 spaces.
Yeah, but that would, basically the RIS would be 2.4 for those
Correct.
as well. So therefore, by that regard, you wouldn't have enough physical spots. And one of the 4 is handicapped, correct?
So it's striped as handicapped, although it doesn't have to be signed by handicapped and restricted only because it's only 4 parking spaces. Those parking lots that are greater than 4 have to have it signed and you can't park there. Yeah, but in the understanding of RSIS is that not everybody's visitors are visiting all at the same time. So the odds that the southern units, those 5, plus the 2 up top, all 7, have visitors at the same time will be pretty rare.
Yeah. And I understand you're not seeking a variance, but I'm just
The
looking.
2.4 factors in visitor parking. So hypothetically, we have 2, yet we still have visitor parking in the back. So we've got that issue covered. Again, the RSIS always factors in visitor parking in their total number. So when they say 2.4 spaces for a 3-bedroom unit, they're factoring in visitor parking.
And there is additional on-street parking available along the road as well.
And so forgive me because you probably don't know the answer to how it's currently happening, so and neither do I, so apologies about that. But Grove is a busy intersection. You're relying on municipal services, and I know what these trucks are, to back in and their current schedule. How many of these days blocking Grove? I mean, I'm picturing them doing this back because they do it on Wilton sometimes. Backing up how many times blocking traffic on Grove to do this?
So it would be however many times that the township
So
picks up.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, so multiple times during the week, blocking off Grove, which is a pretty heavy intersection.
Correct, yeah, but we're away from the intersection, but yes, in order to back in for the garbage trucks, they would close off the street momentarily, 30 seconds, 60 seconds as they back into the site. It's not an uncommon operation for a lot of multifamily. I've also seen it.
Where people have fun with that corner, turning off with that light. Okay.
They pull up in front of my house on Afterglow Ave and block the street when they pick up the garbage in the morning.
Yeah.
That's just
I
normal.
mean, we've all seen how people turn that corner when they're trying to cut that light, so.
Can you discuss building lighting, or is that for the architect?
I'll defer any building lighting to the architect.
What about signage? Any signage?
Just a stop sign at the street. Other than that, I don't believe there's any signage proposed.
So the parking in, so you're gonna have 2-car garage and then 2 cars in front, so each of these units are gonna have 4 cars.
So
So you're gonna have, what?
Just the north ones.
Yeah, the north one's 4. So you're gonna have a lot of musical cars in the same parking lot then to meet your parking requirement.
Only units, the only place that, so, unit 1, for instance, they would be the only ones parking in their garage and in front of them. So yes, might they have to jockey their cars to move that around? That's not uncommon for a single-family home, especially with single driveways, as we see throughout the area. There'd be no coordination between neighboring tenants, certainly, to move cars. And then, yes, technically, I do want to point out, technically, you could fit 4 cars here, 2 in the garage, 2 in front. Our calculations follow RSIS's requirement, and that says that that's only 3.5 spaces. So when we say that we have 35 on site, including EV credits, that's based on this only being 3.5. Technically, we have more parking. Wonky, but true.
Does this parking layout comply with RSIS? Did you review the requirements for our RSIS for the driveway width, and does it comply with that?
So the RSIS, I believe, because there's cars backing out, still requires a 24-foot driveway width. So yes, we would require a waiver from RSIS as well.
Okay.
But again, if you prefer the 24-foot driveway, we can provide it. All we did was reduce the impervious coverage and add greenery by making it a 20-foot driveway. We have no problem making it 24 feet. It's not a difficult thing for us. The project works just the same way. The board sees that they want a 24-foot driveway, we have no problem with that. We just think it's better with the 20 feet because of the reduced impervious and additional greenery and a better appearance.
You mentioned something that you were going to add in an additional water retention system. Can you describe that a little more?
Absolutely. So what I was referring to before is to address the water quality requirements, we are likely going to switch to a pervious paving system. And our pervious pavement in this instance, I'll refer to the layout plan, would probably only be that center drive aisle so that we don't have pervious pavement in front of each of the units. It keeps water away from the units themselves. So that become pervious pavers throughout to handle the water quality. And then we would propose a subsurface extended detention basin below the parking lot to take additional water once it's been cleaned, detain it, hold it back before releasing it through that existing 8-inch pipe. So I don't have that designed, obviously. We'll work with Boswell to design it in conformance with township regulations.
Maybe, I'm sorry, maybe I missed part of this, but what about water quality? How does that impact impervious or pervious pavers?
So the township requirements for stormwater require this development to provide water quality. So to clean the runoff from the parking lots. One of the ways that you can do that is through pervious pavers. It actually cleans it as it goes through the pavement and then through the stone before it eventually goes into a subsurface system or to the ground itself.
Why developments like this?
Just simply due to the shape of it. We don't have a lot of large areas left to put a large surface basin or even a small scale basin. We also have a lot of grading. So if I flip over to our grading plan, the back area as we drop down to grade is pretty steep. So in order to build any kind of surface basins in these back corners, we would have to build some pretty tall retaining walls. And over here, this is really kind of a high part on the site, so it'd be hard to get water to a high point to treat it. So it really wants to be treated at a low point below the parking lot or a low point back here.
Can you point out where the retaining walls will be, will be built?
So the northern retaining wall is going to run basically in line with the townhouse unit, about a foot or two off the northern property line, starting about 15 feet back from the right-of-way line along that wall, along the property line. And it stops again about 20 feet short of the rear line. And then we have another retaining wall along the back that kind of is just as wide as the parking spaces are. Again, the northern retaining wall is 3 feet tall, with the rear retaining wall being only 4 feet tall.
You had mentioned that the trees are going to be on top of the retaining wall.
Just the evergreens, so it's just a small evergreens. Okay. Yeah, they'll be set back from it, they're not going to be directly on top of it, they'll be set back a couple of feet to provide space for their root balls to grow.
Does that sound like all you have is a couple of feet?
No, so between the buildings, in most instances, we have in excess of 15 feet. As we go towards some of those decks, the spacing does get a little bit tighter. But even over here, these decks widen out to be about 10 feet off the property line, pitches down to 5 feet. Plenty of room to provide an evergreen buffer and a small modular block retaining wall.
I guess I'm losing you because when you say the trees are going to be above the retaining wall, you're saying the retaining wall is going to be 2 feet from the property line and you're going to be planting these trees in that 2 feet?
No, so the front face of the retaining wall will be a foot off the property line. The retaining wall itself is only about a foot wide. And then we have left behind that retaining wall between 5, in most instances, between 5 and 8 feet to plant that landscaping.
Which way are you going behind?
So
toward the neighbor or toward the houses?
Good question. So the houses toward our north and our east are lower than our site. So the retaining wall will face our neighbor So if I'm on the neighboring property, this is the retaining wall, our development is over here up a little bit. This will be the retaining wall, and the landscaping would be right here on top of the wall. Set back a couple of feet.
I might need a little help with those calculations, particularly I would say unit one. So how far is I would say the end of the deck to the property line?
In that instance, the closest point of that deck from the property line is 2.7 feet, so just under 3 feet.
So then how are you putting the retaining wall and then the evergreen, like it's going to be going right up into the deck?
Great question. So for that particular deck, because the spacing is tight, our landscape plan had a break in the evergreen screening around that deck. You're absolutely right. It is too tight in that one instance.
Well, keeping with that same theme, so as for unit 2, like how big are these evergreens? Because that you're planting there, because you may only have an extra couple inches in that one.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's important to keep in mind that these decks are going to be at the elevation of the main floor, whereas the plantings are actually going to be below the garage floor. So you're talking about probably 10 to 12 feet, maybe even more, between the elevation at the grade there and the elevation of the deck. So a lot of these will fit underneath the deck. But the size of the plantings, they'd be between 6 and 8 feet in height and probably about 2 to 3 feet in diameter.
So
We're
they're
not
not
trying to go
really,
with large evergreens, we're trying to go with evergreens that are tightly spaced to provide screening.
so they're not really screening though, if your deck's looking over the bushes to the
So
neighbor.
at the time of planting, yes, these evergreens on this northern side would not be screening the deck that's 10 to 12 feet in the air. As they grow and mature, yes, their heights will get taller, but you are correct.
Oh, except for the ones that are underneath the deck, not getting sunlight either.
So none of them would be placed under the deck, they'd just be, the bases where they're a little bit wider, maybe a touch under the deck, 2 inches away, but they would all be able to grow free of the deck.
And is the garage finished floor elevation the same as the rest of the ground floor elevation? There's no basements, they're depressed?
There is no basement, there is a slight step up from the garage as you go into the vestibules, but yeah, otherwise it's relatively flat.
Okay, so the first floor is 8, 9 feet off the ground,
Presumably.
respectively. Yeah.
And then the retaining wall in the rear of the property, how close is that to the property line?
Same as the northern side, it's 1 foot off, the face of the wall will be 1 foot off the property line.
Okay, so the neighbors to the rear, the back of their yard is going to be basically ending and looking right at the retaining wall?
Correct, yes, literally a 4 foot wall. Today, that rear property line is actually a 6 foot tall wood fence. So instead of looking at a 6 foot tall wood fence, they're looking at a 4 foot tall modular block retaining wall.
And then what's the plan for like air conditioning or anything like that?
I'll defer to our project architect for that.
So just on tracking, three of them will need variances for side yard setbacks. All of them will need variances because of the decks in terms of their distance from the sides.
You're talking about the unit setbacks?
Yeah.
So the first 2 units, units 1 and 2 require a side yard setback variance. Yes, and then all of the decks.
I thought I was tracking 3 of them.
Unit 1 and Unit 2, you can see we have a dimension at the edge of Unit 3 that shows that it meets the 15-foot setback requirement.
Okay. And then all around though, the decks.
Correct. Yes, all of the decks do require a setback variance. On the southern side, all the decks are set back 5 feet from the property line. Those northern units, again, that property line is skewed, so those decks vary in setback from 2.7 feet up to 7.8 feet.
And then all around the rear yard, then they still need a rear yard setback as well.
Correct. So if you want to look at the units, units 6 and 11 infringe on that required rear yard.
Just going back to the EV parking spaces, you said they were all going to be in garages of the units?
They would be, yes.
Okay, so none of the four in the back are going to be available?
Correct.
The issue with the decks, obviously, it's an amenity, an attractive amenity, improves the appearance of the building. If it's a concern of the board that the side yard of the deck is such a significant violation, obviously decks can be removed, but I don't think it's a good thing to remove the decks.
Has anybody checked to see if those decks line up with the windows of the house next door? One of the questions we generally ask when people put an addition on their house is, do the windows line up?
Well, one side obviously is the veterinary building.
Right.
There's one house on the other side. I'm not sure where it locates, but we certainly can have the architect check that.
Right. I mean,
I think a site section would be incredibly helpful for us to envision this.
I'm sorry, Christie, I couldn't hear you.
Oh, sorry. I think a site section would be incredibly helpful for us to envision all this.
And then in that site section, you would want to see the adjacent property to the north. Okay. Any other residences or anything else you want to see in that site section?
Not necessarily. I mean, I think, in some other projects that I've seen, the decks are actually in the front. They're kind of they act as a cover. I'm pretty concerned with the adjacency of the property to the north and that deck. I mean, I have a feeling they're going to be right on top of each other. Even if it's 12 or 14 feet, that's not a good buffer. So maybe the exterior wall of the north property.
And your concern with the decks on the north side is how they relate to the existing single-family home. So it really relates to like the units 1 and 2's decks rather than, or is it what's below the decks on that side?
And they're, as designed, though, they also will require a variance, not just distance, height as well, correct? As designed,
Correct.
because of the height?
I believe that is the case.
Okay.
And that's because the decks are being provided at the main living level rather than at the garage level.
Yeah.
What do the sides of the deck look like? Are these like fully enclosed decks? Are they?
They wouldn't have roofs on them if that's the question. The project architect would be better to answer it, but I imagine it would have railings around it, but no coverings.
And the railings, would you be able to like see through those railings, or are they more like boxed in, like a full wall, like sort of like a?
I'll defer to our
Okay.
architect on that. That's an excellent question.
But the lighting, you said the lighting was going to be dusk till dawn,
Correct.
so the lights will be on throughout the night.
Yeah, we would probably look to include security timing to that as well. So after a certain time, the lighting levels would dim to just minimum security levels. That would typically happen usually between like 11 and 4 a.m., something like that. We'll work with your township engineers as well as our lighting consultants to get the exact timing of that down.
I don't know if this is a question for you or somebody else, but like, do people end up with this kind of a layout and a deck that high? Do people end up doing anything else with their yard because of the type of deck? Do you know that, or?
So you're talking about like, would they be doing things underneath the deck?
Or like, do they end up, I don't know if this is a question for you. I guess I just don't know, like, do they end up wanting to do anything else extending beyond that to the property?
So, I mean, it's a deck, so it's going to be elevated up in the air. If a particular homeowner wanted to expand their deck and make it larger, they would have to come back to the board for a variance. So they wouldn't, and then the HOA would not just allow them to expand their decks. They have to get that approved. And obviously, your building department has to approve that. And then I wouldn't anticipate anything at the ground level behind those units. That area is going to have that evergreen buffer that we talked about, and it's also going to have those swales. So there's going to be a lot of drainage running through there, utilities, things like that. It's really not going to be a space to hang out or to put lawn chairs or gravel or anything like that. Great.
Thank you. What will be underneath the decks? Grass?
Yeah, grass or a pea gravel if grass wouldn't be able to grow underneath it. These decks are pretty high up in the air, so you might be able to get something to grow underneath them. But on the north side, they will be in shade, so probably a pea gravel, or landscape material, something like that, river stone.
In terms of landscaping, would you be able to provide additional landscaping? Because I see some empty spaces in the rear yard. Would you be?
Yeah, so we could provide additional landscaping. Our thought process was, if I can go back to the landscaping plan. So again, we have those landscape buffers at the front. We show a hatch at those front entrances to provide for seasonal plantings. I would also anticipate seasonal plantings for each of the planters in front of the garage units, and probably around the berms as well, just to liven up the development and make it look more attractive during the different seasons. In these areas here, we were envisioning that as being more open grass areas, somewhere for somebody to go just hang out, have a sandwich, or relax outside for a little while. Sorry, I said the sandwich, it gets me a little hungry. So we could landscape it, but we prefer to see that as grass, just to provide a little bit of extra amenities to the
In terms of the lighting plan, there's nothing towards, at the rear of the property. I guess that would be to the east of the parking spots.
So going back to the lighting plan, excellent question. So the first three fixtures will all be in that center drive aisle area between the buildings, so not visible from any of the surrounding properties. The back two, we designed those to be away from that eastern property line, as close to the townhouses as possible, so we minimize any glare or light. Again, we're going to have that retaining wall here with the evergreen screen on top of it as well, so we'll have any kind of buffer for those lights.
Okay, so the last two, they are
in these landscape plans.
As far as snow removal is concerned, you discussed the town doing garbage and recycling, et cetera, in the truck. Are you anticipating the town is also going to do plowing?
No, that would be a private snowplow contract, hired by the HOA. Excellent question.
So that should be.
So why would the garbage come on this kind of private drive, but not, not my driveway to pick up my garbage? Yeah, meaning, like, it's almost like a private street. So why would the services come down your street as opposed to just staying on Grove?
So they certainly could stay on Grove Avenue to collect the garbage. From there, they would have two options. They could either walk back to each of the units, grab the trash, or each of the units could bring the trash out to Grove Avenue. Our thought process behind the turn templates is showing that a truck could access the site. We certainly are not going to dictate how the town handles pickup.
Okay, so that would be up to the town on how they would accommodate.
Correct. So if they opt to stay within the front, again, if those are metered parking spaces, I believe overnight parking is not allowed on the street there. So yeah, if they come for early morning pickup, they can park in the front.
What is like a dumpster required for like trash pickup for, is it a certain size of units that you're providing, or is this like too small to provide for like like when is a dumpster required?
That's a great question. It really depends on the use. So for an apartment building, dumpsters are usually required because tenants don't have individual garbage cans. Here, because each unit has its own garage, can keep its garbage cans inside, each unit will have its own garbage can and be able to bring it out. So you could have a townhouse development of, 100 units spaced out throughout a property, but it would still be, single can pickups.
So what I'm hearing you say is that the trash is going to be kept inside the garage.
Correct.
I kind of question that. Number one, just for practical purposes, my neighbor across the street has to do it, and she absolutely hates it because it smells. I mean, everything smells. So things kind of wind up trickling into her driveway. But these garages they're somewhat on the smaller side to have an extra square footage being taken up by trash cans. So I just kind of question, practically speaking, how that would work.
I understand. Yeah, our architect will speak more about how this can fit inside the
I
unit.
can tell you how it works. For 50 years, I've had my garbage pail in my garage, because otherwise raccoons would get it. So,
I do the same, but I also can't fit my car in there.
Right,
To build on that, will these apartments that are being sold as condominiums, will they have compactors in their kitchens?
Compactors? No, I wouldn't anticipate compactors. Garbage disposals or?
Yeah, right. Compactors, well, the compactor in the kitchen area, that would help, it would help with some of these issues that we're talking about right now.
Yeah, I'll defer that to our project architect. Fortunately, they keep us engineers away from kitchen design.
I mean, on the architectural plans, going back to the side yards, they all have the AC units are on the ground. Wouldn't that be another variance for AC units on the side property?
Are they considered in the rear of that building?
Is that far out? It's the side property.
They were added, we added the AC units. Yeah.
Okay. I was looking on this. It's not listed here.
Mr. Chairman, any further questions of this witness?
I don't know if the board has any further questions at this time, but I think they're going to want to reserve some questioning. I personally would like to have you nail down the garbage process, because right now it's kind of like, oh yeah, we'll just put it out there, or we'll put it out to the curb and pile it all up on Grove Avenue. I think there's a talk with the town maybe would reconcile some of the concerns about where the garbage is going to go. I mean, you can put so much in the, I guess, in the condo laws, but
Understood, yeah, we can definitely look into that.
especially if you don't expect them to plow the road.
Mr. Chairman, with whom would you expect me to speak? The town manager?
Town manager, director of sanitation, probably is the one who handles contracts, director, superintendent. Yeah. Yeah. Are there any other questions from the board for our engineer?
I do. Can you just go over the maximum floor area ratio that had something that was incorrect on our package?
Absolutely. So you're talking about the typo, right?
Yes.
Okay, so our site data chart on SP1 included I want to make sure the numbers right. So we list a gross floor area as a square footage of 29,854. So that is correct based on the architectural plan. But next to that, we provide a ratio, and we say that it's 0.57. It should be 0.957. Again, my apologies for that.
Almost twice. Mr. Delaney, question. Did you have access to the previous application that came to this board for this particular property?
I understand that there was a prior application. Honestly, I've never seen it. I know it was for an apartment building. I have not reviewed those documents.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, what would the reason be? We certainly could get access through Kathleen, I would assume. I think it was a 32-unit building, as I recall.
Right. A totally different
Completely different.
type of design. I was just wondering if he came up with this based on the fact that that was unsuccessful.
No, we designed this, trying to look at the township ordinances, what fit with the neighborhood best, and what laid out and was the most efficient design.
That never went to completion. There were various iterations, and then it never was voted on by the board. At least that's my recollection. Yours might be different.
I can't remember what I had for breakfast.
I believe, yeah, you're correct.
Yeah, it's full.
And we'll be hearing from you or Mr. Petrie about planning at some point?
Yes. He's on vacation this week.
Mr. Petrie will be serving as the planner. He will be my last witness.
Okay. Any other questions from the board members for our engineer? Is there anyone from the public who has a question of our engineer on the testimony that he's presented this evening? The architect's smiling because he says, okay. Then, Counselor, I would turn it back to you. I would condition it on the fact that this board doesn't hear testimony after 11 a.m., 11 p.m.
I think it's probably
More candy.
not worth it to call my next witness.
That's
In view of the fact that there were some issues raised by board members, and probably about 11:15, I know exactly, and I'm sure my witness will take more than 15 minutes based on the questioning by the board so far.
I would tend to agree with you. So if it's acceptable to you, we would like to carry this to our February 5th, 12th? February 12th. We have a meeting on February 5th too, but February 12th.
February 12th?
Councilor, no objection to carrying?
No, absolutely not. I waived time constraints.
Thank you.
Obviously, no further notice required.
That is correct.
Absolutely. So
Good night, everybody. Thank you for your time and attention.
thank you. This application will be carried to February 12th at 7:30 right here. There will be no further notice to the public. So we'll stand. Yeah, it'll be on the agenda. Okay, before we leave, is there any other? Where's my agenda? There it is. Okay. If there is nothing else for us to do, we do not need an executive session this evening, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
And we will see you. We have a board meeting on February 5th, a special meeting.
What special?
February 5th and February 12th.
I gotta take a vacation from Friday to Wednesday.